Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm Dolson, and you just saw the Steel Forge Battle Pass. We're getting towards the end of it, but there's still plenty of time for you to jump in, earn some of those skins before the new summer-themed one comes through. A good first set of the day. I mean, it was a 4-0 for Na'Vi. Some interesting picks there towards the end. Of course, I'm Dolson, and that's Kresnik, fan favorite, joining me here on the desk for the second set. Just really quickly, what do you take from games? I mean, games 1 and 2 of that last set seemed pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And then a little maybe less competitive going down the road there.
I think Na'Vi showed how well they understand NIP in those games. I think they really came in. I mean, NIP came with a really prepared strategy for Frozen Guard. Na'Vi were ready. You know, they had the distance with the archers, keeping the damage on the Torvald. They were ready for the Torvald basically every time it came out. And NIP, I think they realized that and said, let's not show anything else. Let's try to be as ready as we can for MSI.
And at the end of the day, they're first seed going into MSI, so nothing to lose or gain really for either of those two teams today. But Na'Vi, they come out with the 4-0 win in our first set. Of course, looking at this set today, this is another matchup between two teams that are very close. 1 and 2, of course, were NIP and Na'Vi, and now we have, I believe, a 5-6 matchup between Virtus.Pro and Kanga on the opposite side. So regardless, two teams that are still very close on paper. Do you give an edge to one team over the other?
It's really hard to say, honestly, both these teams. Both these teams have looked so good, and last week, VP looked better than Kanga, I felt, but I think historically Kanga have had higher highs, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's
other than
a fair
VP
way
beating
pointing.
Na'Vi, but like I think Kanga have shown they can beat them out.
Right. At the end of the day, it's hard to put your finger on that.
Yeah.
You have to look at the VP side, though. We look at them first, and they're a team, again, it's kind of hard to put my finger on because, you know, at the end of the day, I believe they're 6-5 right now. Technically, a -4 map differential, -5. Either way, they're a negative map differential, but like they're the best middle-of-the-road team, I feel like, in this league right now, where one day they can come out and they'll play you guys in SSG to 7 games, and then the next day they'll come out and, you know, they get 4-0'd by somebody. It's such a hard team, I feel like, to put my finger on. They have so much potential. They are still a very good team in my eyes. A lot of that stems from Pule as well. Very good player at controlling some of that. Where do you look at Virtus.Pro right now?
VP, they need to be firing all cylinders, I think, as a team, to be pulling off what they need to, like to perform at their highest potential, because they're still, like, no matter what, there still is that language barrier with this team. Like, they've been together for a while, but still, I mean, English is not Hecate and Pule's native language.
Right.
You know, and that still is a problem when it comes to, like, fast communication. And when your team is on fire in this game, you can kind of just read the situation and know what's going to happen. Like, you'll know, everyone will instinctively know, oh, they're going to try to touch from this angle. Like, this thing's going to be coming in. And when you're not firing all cylinders, when someone has to remind you of that, that's when the language barrier can come into play. So really, we have to see what VP we see today.
Well, that's a very fair point. And again, that sort of bodes into what I was sort of mentioning, is that you get some of these games where just everything is working out for Virtus.Pro, and that's when you can probably lean a little less on, you know, having to communicate through every little thing. And it's just like, we're playing so well right now, let's just go win the game the way we know how. Of course, their head coach is Spuds, and he'll probably have a game plan laid out for them today. Let's send it down to an interview and hear what he's thinking.
All right, thank you guys so much. Down here, and we're on some vibes down here in the Virtus.Pro booth today. The boys seem like they're on one. How's the team feeling today, man?
We're feeling pretty good. It's the last game of the split, so we're just kind of ready to get it over with, honestly.
So with seeding on the line here, but overall MSI qualification obviously not on the line, how hard are you really going to go to maintain 5th seed and win this set, or would you not want to show strats if it comes to that?
So it's kind of hard. Like, we want to win. We want to be 5th, but if God wills it, then, you know, we're going to come 5th. If God doesn't, then 6th.
Well, I sure hope he's on your side today. What are your impressions of what we've seen so far today?
The first set was interesting.
Yeah.
Super serious, you know. I don't know how we're going to follow that up, but I hope we can.
Do you expect to see that level of spice either from your boys or from Kanga in this set today?
I hope so. If the guys want something, like, why not? But we'll see if we get up, if we go down.
Well, I think a Virtus.Pro that is happy, that's feeling good, that's feeling themselves is a fun Virtus.Pro to watch. Let's get it back up to the desk and get ready to talk to Kanga.
You know, today has a very, like, pre-summer break, like last Friday of school going into the summer sort of vibe to it. Of course, they're feeling good. And one thing Nick brought up in the interview, and Spuds, I think, answered very well, is that at the end of the day, they're going to MSI regardless. Of course, 5th or 6th seed is still up for grabs, so this still is an important set as far as seeding going into MSI goes. But they're sort of going regardless. And I know I kind of asked you this in the interview yesterday. How important at this point is 5 versus 6 seed? Obviously, it gives you a little advantage, but is it a massive advantage where you really lean into these games as hard as you can?
I think specifically for VP, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
because they've beaten the 3rd and the 4th seed before.
Right.
Really anything can happen. So for VP, I think they want to defend their seed.
They do.
No org Twitter wants to be like, close game, Kanga took it. No
absolutely.
org Twitter wants to put that up, right? So they want to win for that, but they've beaten both of the potential competitors.
No, and I don't want to set it up like they're not going to try, because they absolutely will.
Of course.
And they're going to come out, they're going to try to win these games. But how, I guess, important it is sort of what's up to decision, because at the end of the day, any team in this league seemingly can beat any other team. Of course, let's look at the Kanga side, the team that is in the 6th seed. They have that last slot for the PPL coming into the MSI. They have a fight ahead of them today with Virtus.Pro potentially playing very well. They're feeling good, but let's see how Kanga's feeling.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Now, down here, much more reserved. I think cool, level-headed here in the Kanga booth versus what I'm seeing over there for Virtus.Pro. This is a match, again, that isn't going to change who's going to MSI, but it could change some seeding. So with that in mind, how hard are you guys looking to go for this win today? Is this going to be an all-out effort?
We're taking this game serious, but it's more like for the end of the year, for the HRX standings. But for the seeding into MSI, it doesn't really matter who we play.
Right. I think in that previous set, there was a lot of conversation around keeping strategies concealed and things of that nature. And you come from that Fnatic squad that was very, very undefeated, oftentimes going into lands, where things couldn't really change for you guys. You were locked into whatever seed you were locked into far before the end of the split. So given what you saw in that first set, is that kind of what you really gathered that was happening up there?
They were just memeing and having fun, so that's just what they did. And we're basically going to do the same thing. We're having fun, playing standard, not showing anything too special. Maybe try some drafts to see if they work or not, but we will see that in the end.
I think this is going to be a really fun day, guys. Thank you so much for kind of taking the time to talk with us, Gary. Let's get it back up to the desk and get this set underway.
Appreciate it, guys. More the same mentality in that, they're going to be fighting, they're going to try to win, but you don't want to show too much. And I think that's a long-sighted goal. And a good thing that Garrett's bringing up is, like, at the end of the day, you're playing these matches for HRX at the end of the season as well.
Yeah, because the records don't get wiped at all. And one thing, actually, because of the patch schedule changing, this wasn't going to be the MSI patch initially.
Oh, right.
Sun and Moon, I think, was going to be the MSI patch. So now that this meta is going to be the one continuing on, now not showing strats becomes more of a worry.
That's right. Well, Frog Isle, map number 1, a action-packed map that leans into a bit of the maybe longer range champions in this one. Kanga, this is a map that they've shown, pretty good drafts on, and they've kind of gone, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe it was Renegades that did this, but I like to point out on this map, there's kind of 2 different ways. You can really lean into the sniper composition and then build the rest of the team around that. And then on the opposite side, I've seen a couple times where you'll just build like double flank or double dive.
Yeah, just play chaos mode, basically.
Just blow up the
Because if they have a
sniper.
sniper, they're going to be stationary at least somewhat. You can just completely overwhelm them. Not too surprising of a first pick from Kanga. They've picked Frog.
Why is Eevee? I feel like it's been Torvald, Makoa, Atlas, and then Eevee has like been that third ban basically.
Well, VP has Fish.
I guess that's true. But I feel like even outside of this set, I feel like I've seen Eevee banned out as one of those first 4. I mean, she's a very good champion, don't get me wrong. I understand why she maybe deserves to be banned, but does it help make that a little more justified when you have a world-class Eevee player on the opposite side?
I think so. I mean, I think it's part of it, but the other part is Eevee, even though there are like other vertical flankers, Eevee has that free get in, get out, get a free touch that nobody else has. And that's one of the reasons why you ban, why you ban the champions you do. You want to get rid of something that nobody else brings to the table, right?
Yep.
Makoa, basically pick on a 10-second cooldown. You don't want that. Atlas he's the only one who can hard counter healing on a tank body with that burst damage. You know, Eevee, that kind of ability. Torvald's shielding damage boost. It's something that nobody else brings. So by eliminating this, you kind of simplify the draft, make things a little easier to maintain.
And that of course opens up Khan, and he's going to be first picked over there on the side of Kanga, answering back with the Maeve, and she's been a pretty fun pick on this map to watch come through, as well as the Ashe in this case. That was 5 or 6 in the span of just 3 or 4 seconds.
It flowed so naturally, I honestly lost count. It was like it was a river of dabs.
I was wide-eyed and lost count. I was lost in the dab this time around. Maeve getting picked up for Kanga. Is that really just a way to deal with this Kness on the Virtus.Pro side?
Having a flanker is really strong. Vertical flanker, she can come up from anywhere, as opposed to some other flankers who are limited to coming up from the danger side or main. Also, this also plays into why they banned the Eevee, because by banning the Eevee, now the other really good vertical flanker is gone. So now you've kind of you've guaranteed yourself that. You've kind of monopolized the vertical flanker, burst damage flanker.
Okay. All right. Talk to me about Grover. We haven't seen him as much. Why do we maybe see him here?
He's just a solid healer on this map. If you manage to get away with sitting in the jungle area right below the window, you can heal everywhere on the map. With Inara Barrack, his healing is good, but it's like only a step above Genos, I would say sometimes, unless you have really, really well-timed Blossoms. So having it with Inara Barrack could be kind of rough. I wouldn't be shocked to see a secondary healer, but I know I know Vex likes Grover. So.
Yeah, I think it was actually NIP. They played Ferocity Grover on this map, which would be sort of interesting. No, it's not bad at all. Virtus.Pro hiding that 5th pick for a little extra flexibility there towards the end. Kanga are going to have to reveal all of their cards here. Still lacking a healer. Does, Genos maybe make sense here? The Damba is still available as well. Honestly, we've seen such a variety in healers.
I wouldn't be too shocked to see Genos.
Sure.
To see Genos or Damba. I mean, well, obviously. But Genos would have been really good with their tanks, but I think now they might pick the Damba specifically to make up for the sustain that they're lacking. They'll pick Damba, Tyra. Since they're not getting Genos, they're losing out on the damage boost. Tyra fills that role. And since they want to keep up with the sustain that Genos won't bring, they'll pick the Damba instead.
And the Tyra as well for a little of that extra damage amp. That's been a fun meta to kind of watch develop is the Tyra, Vivian, a little Victor yesterday
Definitely
coming through.
More fun to watch.
Yeah, I guess not to play against. That's entirely fair. Drogos is the final pick in this draft. So not overwhelmingly spicy. Maybe a pickled jalapeno here in draft number 1. Drogos coming back to Frog Isle as well. I think maybe once or twice have seen Combustible come through. Worm Jets obviously is very good on this map. Do you like either draft, left or right?
I like Kanga's draft a lot. This is a very nice aggressive draft, and I think if Osrino plays really well on the Ashe, if he is on the Ashe, whoever plays the Ashe, if their ults are absolutely perfect, this would be a Kanga win.
Well, he gives it to Kanga. We'll have to find out how it plays out, but to do that, we're going to have to go down to your casters. Nick Pretty Hair Keo, and a man who deserves to be chiseled out of marble, Ryan Agro. I forgot your last name.
Bailey. Thank you, Jolson. Yeah, clearly a lot of love there for me. If you go to Pittsburgh, there actually is a marble statue of me, so we should take a road trip sometime. Kanga trying to usurp VP as one of the bottom end, but still MSI, still trying to get to that number 5 position, I do believe. You heard what Kresnik was saying on the desk. He likes the draft that they've got.
Oh, I absolutely do as well. For what is available in this draft, the Eevee was banned out. That's like the only little improvement Evil Eye may have been able to make. But similar to that Stone Keep draft from Na'Vi, you look across the board, everybody has something that they're just in love with and really, really in a position to succeed with.
Man, Frog Isle's got a little jam coming in there.
Oh, yeah.
I like that music that we got going on here.
Rumble in the jungle.
That's right. Look, we've seen so much kind of about these off tanks and what they can do. Kanga doesn't have that traditional point tank, I would say, between the Ashe and the Khan.
Right.
We'll see if they're able to sit tight on that point, but it's Virtus.Pro that get there first. Is that Inara, of course. Joel's in there trying to get his hands dirty and do what he can, but Virtus.Pro gonna get that first blood. It's Vasheko that takes down Evil Eye. Pelele is gonna take down Joel's as well, and immediately Virtus.Pro shoves back Kanga.
That's it's a great start here for Pule Ule. When you can transition from being on the point to getting aggressive, kind of pushing up the stairs, it's really kind of like the tactic on Frog Isle. Frog Isle tends to be a little bit vanilla in how it's approached. Nobody really tries anything too crazy over here on this side. Vex just trying to zone some people out. Grover obviously has that distance scaling on his axis. The further they go, the harder they hit.
Easy for Virtus.Pro. Not even a touch for Kanga on this first point as we begin the push already. Vex doing work on that Grover, as you mentioned. But this Inara really has not been displaced whatsoever. Joel's does go down. to Vex on that Grover. But Virtus.Pro looking good right off the bat.
One thing that we've learned as Grover has started to peek his head back out, there's really not a ton of teams. I would say probably 3, maybe 4 that are running Grover in the healing position. Tenor and NIP run it in similar to how they run Pip. Basically there to do damage and have, you know, auxiliary burst healing for when it's necessary. But even as the main healer role, Grover actually can contribute a very significant amount of damage. So if Virtus.Pro position and play well around this Grover, yes, it's predictable. Yes, you kind of know where they're going to be based on where Vex is. But if you play it well, it's something that's very hard to deal with.
Man, Virtus.Pro really working it. About 60% of the way there already. We're still a minute 30 to go. Pule Ule's got the rocket boots. He's A-okay. No problems for him. Joel's, wish you could say the same. He's taken down by Hecate. Another big crit coming through from him, as he's under no duress whatsoever. Chronic's down to another shot from him, and Hecate's in a rhythm, and that's not what you want to see if you're on Kanga.
This is a very scary first round, given how Kanga's composition should be playing out. They're the one that's supposed to be with their foot on the gas, the foot on the throat, the pressure in this situation. Pressure comps do not do well from the back foot, as you may imagine, as Hecate jumps up into the trees in victory here. 7 streak burning for him. Kanga obliterated in the first round. You can see the 600 credit mark is where you're going to be able to get your level 2 offensive item line, and that's a very just important benchmark to keep a pulse on how the game is going. Yes, you can lose a round, but if you still get enough money to keep pace with core offensive items, then you're in an okay spot. Kanga are not at that point right now. They got obliterated.
Tough, man. That is a hard first point for sure. I mean, as I mentioned, no traditional point tank here for Kanga. Do you think that was the problem there? I don't even know if a point tank would have helped him.
It's tough to say for sure, because they try to get aggressive and they kind of just hit the brick wall. If Kanga were allowed to really infiltrate that back line, get to the sniper, to the Drogos, if those two don't receive any pressure, then it's probably going to just go that way. Kanga Esports are going to lose these fights if first bloods happen for Virtus.Pro.
Exactly what we saw at the very beginning last time. Dosup's first to the point and immediately gets a quick 30% or so for Virtus.Pro. Fasheko nearly knocked the con off the map, but was able to hold on just by a bit. Joel's in a little bit of trouble. He's going to dash forward. Chronic's ultimate comes out, but he gets stunned right away and knocked down by the Barrack. Pule Ule with that one. Now, Khan does get something going for Kanga as Fasheko gets taken out, but still, Virtus.Pro 60% on the point.
All right, into the back line. This is the pressure we needed to see from Kanga Esports, but it's 69% on the objective already. The slow goes out from Inara. Dosups crosses the arms on a 10 streak, and he's still feeling healthy.
Now he's going to be under some siege, though. Kanga finally gets to the point. Chronix does finally put an end to Dosups, and Kanga going to start ticking up 40% now for them. But VP don't need too long on the point. They're at 84% already.
And that's a good sign, I think, from Kanga, because their team fight really evolves once Ultimates comes online. They can get aggressive. Ash can just assert dominance into the backline, plant that flag. Khan should be able to hit his overpowers. He missed the first one, which is why I bring this up. Even while missing one of the most important ultimates in Paladins, they still managed to find a way to win.
Overtime, Kanga ticking down, trying to get themselves on the board. Dosup's there, but he's going to get shredded yet again. Chronix was able to get some damage onto him and Hecate. Evil Eye finishes off Vex, and Kanga going to put themselves on the board. Those ultimates coming through end up being pretty helpful that time around for Kanga.
And now you're starting to see some of the problems that Grover has. When things get dire and Inara just has to walk down to point to get that touch, the only way Grover can heal her is if he goes with her, and that just looks like a meat grinder. You do not want to step down that road if you can help it. That's where those range supports come into play. But when, like in the first round, when you saw Virtus.Pro able to stay together and fight as 5, where all 5 of those members are simultaneously getting the same amount of throughput, that's where Grover shines. So that's where Virtus.Pro need to try and play.
Chronix on an 8 streak now, really tearing it up. I mean, this Inara having trouble already stepping up and withstanding this damage output from this Tyra, as Kanga making this push look almost as easy as VP had in that first round. A couple ultimates coming up for them as well. Midnight ready for Maeve if they decide they want to push this in, but Chronix gets poked out nicely from that right-hand side. Evil Eye will finish off Vex. Fasheko does finally take care of that Tyra. Fasheko starts going real in, man. Double kill for him, and VP start to push back.
This is, you know, it's a long-standing player-champion combination that's very, very popular, and only because the character itself has fallen off in the meta is why that conversation doesn't come up quite as much anymore, but they go hand in hand. Pacheco and Drogos, Pacheco and Eevee, the blaster through and through, I think, to his core. One of the best to ever do it in the AoE damage department. Very cool to see this because most all the time it's Wormjets, right? So seeing this old fire spit talent come through to apply that damage over time effect, it's harder to run because you don't have very much mobility. You have to be very careful with how you position and how you play.
He's really been hanging out on this little cliff to the left-hand side or the right if you're coming from the point. It's worked out pretty well for him. Poked out Chronix last time around. We'll see if he can do it again. Evil Eye gets poked out heavily by Pululele, but still able to get away. That mobility from Maeve coming in. We've got 10 ults available on this push, but Kanga looking a little bit hesitant right now. May want to save them for the point, though. Ash going right in. Joel's immediately gets punished for it. 5 in a row now for Pacheco, and that might neuter the push.
Yeah, they lose the early first blood of this fight onto Evil Eye. And beyond that, it's kind of tough. You don't really feel great about going in. Again, Tyra can get a lot of kills on her own, but a lot of people really think of her as a bit of a cheerleader who can, you know, when people are making themselves available, she's going to do damage to them, and she does great damage at that. But, you know, being so low mobility, you can't always get in there. So it really is on Evil Eye to do a lot of the diving with these two front lines, just supplemented by Hunting Party to get the job done there. So once Evil Eye goes down, their dive becomes much less potent.
This flank really, really nice. Khan definitely a big part of that push going well for Kanga that time. Just seemed to find a soft spot in the defense.
That's what they need to do, man, this overpower. Do it quick. Get rid of a front line. Get rid of somebody who can peel, somebody who can stop you from just walking to the back line and doing that. That's the objective here. Joel is 0-7. This is the turnaround round for him. He needs to be effective to get into the back line. You can die a lot as a tank. That's fine, but you need to accomplish your goal. Right now, he's been in this little ditch, and that's really where he stayed. I'm looking for him to get aggressive.
Got his ultimate. Can certainly do so, but Virtus.Pro a quick 30%. In he goes. He's got the ultimate right up on top of the point, but he's going to change his attention down towards Pacheco. They've already lost Khan. Have Kanga, and Evil Eye could be next. Shots coming in, and beautifully done. That'll do it onto the Maeve. 57% already for Virtus.Pro, and Kanga get a touch, but that might be all they get for now.
And all the other 4 ultimates are available. It feels like Joel shifted gears, and everybody else like misshifted. They're grinding. They're kind of stalling out on the runway here. Where was the go? Where was the initiate from Kanga Esports? The follow-up on the Joel? That's what I wonder.
Touch completed by Kanga. That'll force overtime, but Virtus.Pro right on the edge of securing this victory. Evil Eye tries to get in there, but doesn't even get on the point. And Virtus.Pro going to take game 1.
You can't end a game with 3 ults up like that.
Yeah, that's rough.
You really can't. I mean, the Dread Serpent from downtown exploded like mid-air. At the end of the day, Kanga just did not get the ultimates off there, and they have such an effective suite of ultimates to really put together a potent team fight that in a lot of cases, when you look at overpower, there's nothing you can really do about it. If it gets hit, you're just going to die, and there's nothing you can do to mitigate. There's no items you can buy. There's nobody that can save you.
You got to land them, that's for sure. That's why Khan's the top pick right now. It's Virtus.Pro. They take game 1. Let's throw it back to the desk for them to break it down.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey, for game number 1 this time around. Let me make this very clear. I know his last name. I was so scared to give out my first compliment that I just kind of blacked out, and everything went gray from there.
Did you picture him in his underwear? Oh, that might have been. I mean, you were like.
Well, listen. All right, that is a rabbit hole I'm not going down. I was about to. I'm reeling us back here. Another thing, kind of a funny thing to point out, is Hades is not around for Kanga. No. So they're not playing for stakes tonight. Nobody's going to take them out to stakes if they win, so maybe a little less pressure on their side. But on a serious note, maybe what did you see from Virtus.Pro this time around? What allowed them to really take it to Kanga?
I mean, they just stopped every time of aggression. I mean, the Ash ults that got in didn't have. Yeah, the Ash ults that got in didn't have what they needed. They couldn't sustain through. You can see the death counter in comparison. VP have that stationary poke comp, and Hecate on a sniper is always something to be feared.
Yes.
I give Kanga a lot of hope going into that, I think, but I mean, you can see the Ash ults I said had to be perfect, and 1 in 8, the pressure just got completely stalled.
Well, when it really comes down to it, picks and bans allow you to set the stage for yourself, but it's on the players, of course, then to perform on that stage. And although on paper Kanga had maybe it was a clearer draft, maybe something that they were really going for, Virtus.Pro I mean, they were firing on all cylinders. I believe Undying through that first round. Finally, Kanga's able to answer back with a couple kills of their own. But they just did not have an answer for Hecate this time around. He was just plugging away shots. The long-range advantage just seemed too much to deal with.
Yeah, a man like Hecate has been sniping as long as he has been, you put him back on that. I mean, he's just so comfortable on. I mean, we've been on the receiving end of it. I mean, everyone saw our Timbermill game against them.
Right.
It's really hard to deal with, and a character like both Kinessa and Strix are such hard carries on a player that's comfortable on them.
No, and that's tough. Not only because it was such a convincing loss, but I imagine that's a map Kanga would hope that they would win. They're normally traditionally pretty good at Frog Isle, I believe, but Shattered Desert coming out here second. Does Virtus.Pro maybe feel a little better on Shattered Desert here?
It's possible. I mean, it's one of the wide maps. And historically for VP, I have all my stuff right here, actually. Historically for VP, they actually have not picked too many wide maps. Shattered's actually the only one they've preferred more than some others.
There you go. This man has the stats to back
the
up
tally
his
marks.
knowledge.
I actually had to teach my team what tally marks were. I was like, I'm keeping a tally, and they're like, what?
Now, I will say, I am surprised because I thought tally marks would transcend
I thought they were
any
universal.
sort of language.
I did like the 5th line, and they were like, huh. Like the cross through.
Yeah, crossing it through.
Yeah, they were like, wow.
Was it just tally marks in general,
No,
or the cross through that?
I think it was the cross through.
Got it. Okay. Well, because like some European countries will do decimals instead of commas, which at first I had no idea. So maybe the cross through is our version of that. Of course, Torvald, Makoa, Eevee. Again, Eevee getting banned out here. Evil Eye always a threat on that champion as well. Of course, looking at Shattered Desert, it's a very interesting map as far as the way a lot of these team fights go. It's like this big disco around the outside, while some of the
big rotation.
While the point tanks kind of duke it out in that middle area. What are some champions that really maybe flourish on a map like this?
Any long-range character that doesn't have any fall-off to be able to play, they have more flexibility in where they can position. I think Leon is really strong for her rotations. I also think Maeve is very, very powerful because even though you're constantly rotating, even though the map is wide, the fights are still kind of compressed.
Right.
So you can get a lot off of a Midnight. You're so close in some of the areas that if you Midnight and then immediately go to Collapse, you can get really quick kills. What I noticed you're doing that back to them, Dawson.
I know,
is that something they can't see that?
Me, but every time he throws up the prayer hands, I do it as well. It's very funny. No, they're obviously feeling good in their booth. But to your point about Maeve, I remember actually it was kind of around the time that Shattered Desert first came out. Maeve this was when she wasn't as firmly in the meadow, still like, oh wow, look, there's a Maeve. This was a map that she came. Was that a Cooper dab? I looked away right when Coop dabbed. Oh, unreal. I can't believe I missed that one.
You see my
Ash Barrack, either way, picked up here for Kanga. Leon, always a threat. I mean, some changes have been made to her kit, but in the hands of somebody like Hecate, you always got to be careful.
I also think it's a comfort pick for him, too,
Yeah,
over the other characters in a lot of ways. Because, Victor has his place, as we saw yesterday in Renegades versus SSG. I think Victor was very strong into the draft that we had.
Sure.
But if you want versatility, a character that can just excel against different characters, against flanks and stuff like that, who are pretty strong, especially if Kanga takes Maeve. Now they might not want to. Leon is definitely the more flexible pick.
And then Grover again coming through for Virtus.Pro. Obviously happy with the way he performed the last time around. Damba. It's going to allow for a lot of that splash healing onto the point here for Ash Barrack. That's kind of been the way a lot of these picks have been going, where the 4 bans are the way they are, and then Khan answered back with Ash Barrack. Actually, yesterday, I saw a lot of Renegades actually prioritizing Ash over the Khan. Does that surprise you at all, or do you kind of see Ash Khan maybe on the same level here?
If you execute fast enough, the Ash can be better than the Khan, right? If you can get in, have your Ash assert dominance, and then kill the Khan before he can Commander's Grab or overpower them out, it can be better.
Right.
It just really depends on how quickly your team can act, how clear your communications are, and how good your focus fire is.
Well, this will be a map where Kanga will look to bounce back on, obviously, Virtus.Pro, a map they're very comfortable with, lots of long-range sight lines coming through. Evil Eye very good at the Bomb King. This is a map where the Bomb King can look good as well. Cassie, interestingly enough, this is always sort of where the flexibility comes into the air. I would assume it's Hecate on the Leon, and Fasheko around on the Cassie. So not on one of his more traditional blasters, but I still think can flourish on a champion like
Yeah,
that.
no, Fish has played the Cassidy, the Shaw
right.
in the past for them. Leon definitely going to be Hikate's. And I don't dislike this composition on this map. Again, just like they did last map, they're kind of going with this more defensive rotation. I mean, you can't really rotate on Frog, but on this map, it's going to be a little more rotation-oriented. Just kiting away, keeping their distance, especially since Bomb King and Tyra are really not long-distance confirm kill kind of characters.
And then I think this is a pretty good pick, getting Chronix on Tyra. He's very comfortable on this champion. What do you think Kanga look to do in this game to take the win over Virtus.Pro?
They're going to have to execute off of that assert dominance, like I mentioned. They're going to have to get in and get that kill on the Khan before he can counter the invincibility the Ashe gains from that.
And on the opposite side, what do Virtus.Pro look to do?
To keep their distance.
They just got to stay away.
Yeah, they just
well,
gotta stay
Liana's
away.
good at that. Liana's very good at that. The early win this time around goes the way of Virtus.Pro, and they're going to be riding that momentum likely into this game, taking, I would assume that was Kanga's map pick off of them first, and then Virtus.Pro now going to their map pick, and especially on a day where we thought we would be getting, yesterday we had 20 out of 21 possible games. On paper, you have 1 and 2 versus 5 and 6. Today looks like it's very close. Are you surprised to see how fast that first game went?
Definitely, but not once game 3 started. Once map 3 started, I wasn't sure.
Well, Kanga's going to look to bounce back here. Let's send it down to your casters. Nick Pretty Hair Keo, and a man who must be from Tennessee, because he's the only 10 that I see, Ryan Aggro Bailey.
Glad he got there, Dave. Game 2 starting up. It's all right. It's his first foray into the nonsense business here on broadcast. You gotta ramp him up. I've been doing it for years at this point. I've been on my
thought Tyler cut him off.
I thought so
Tyler
too.
just put his foot down and said, "I am over this."
Hey man, I'll take the compliment any way I can get it. Look, VP looks great. They go back to the Grover this time around. Vex letting it ride again.
Yeah.
Is this the Shattered Desert map, though? It feels a little bit more wide open. You can get flanked a little bit more easily. Could the Grover struggle in a map like this?
Well, we talk about, you're right, it's wide open, and the only cover is really, your teammates. You see this is very, very open, very rotational, so if you rotate together, you really play to the strengths of Grover, right? If everyone's in range all the time, nobody's really splitting off from the pack. VP have drafted a composition that is going to be able to do that very effectively.
Kanga have a frontline tank this time around, but Joel's not long for this world. Joseph's able to get the first blood, and already 50% on the point for VP. Evil Eye enters back onto the Khan.
Oh
and
my.
He's going to find himself a clean double kill. Tanks, get out of my face. I'm looking to hit the damage dealers. Evil Eye gets both frontliners and now sets up Virtus.Pro for a retake potential.
There was so much sauce on that play. I mean, double, triple sticky, poppy bombs away, throws one more, then detonates them all. I mean, perfect Bomb King performance here. But what else would you really expect? I mean, Evil Eye loves this character, has been such an effective guy in making a name on this character as well, to the point where this is something you really look to take away from him to get him off. If Bomb King ever comes back in the upswing in the meta, Kanga Esports are going to be in good shape.
Gotta give him a big hug now. He's looking for something. Watch out, watch out, watch out. He blows up. Doseup finds himself Vex as well. It's a double kill for Evil Eye, and Kanga gonna cap the first point.
This is the type of just execution I felt was lacking from Kanga Esports, where they're sitting on these ultimates time after time to where I'm just bewildered. I have no inkling as to why this would be the case, to the point where I want to ask them, like, after the games, like, what was going on Frog Isle? Why weren't you guys, you have everything you need, every tool in the shed, especially starting with Khan Overpower. Kresnik talked about it a lot, saying, this ultimate, you gotta kill Khan before he can use it, because he literally goes in and surgically removes whatever part of this puzzle he feels like.
Ule looking to remove something, but coming from the backside, kind of alone right now, stunned out by Maldamba, and Rhino is able to get the last hit there, but Garo doing great work with that stun in order to get that started. Another double kill for Evil Eye. He's raking them in at this point. And already Kanga looking very, very strong. Still a minute 35 on this push.
900 base damage, incredibly high single instance scaling there with the hunting party. You saw just how fast Khan exploded when he was, revealed for a second with that stun. very, very potent. That's what Tyra does. That's what she's always looked to do. Not only does she amp this for Bomb King, but frontliners tend to do somewhere between 600 and 800 DPS. That also amps. That also becomes very potent, and it throws off your internal time to kill clock.
Right on the precipice now for Kanga. They're looking to get a clean push in right away. Lulu on the high ground right now. Certainly could be a focus fire, but he's trying to take down right underneath, but can't really do it. In fact, now he's getting bounced around and taken down. Joel's able to get that one. Another one for Evil Eye. A nice little clean double to finish off that first round. They get an easy push in, and it was all Bomb King, it felt like.
Smiles back on their faces, just getting rolling, you know what I mean? For the first time on the front foot, setting the pace in these fights. I like the King Bomb as well. Did a good job stalling this one out on the wall and rolling in. At the end of the day, it's not the most effective tank buster, and especially towards the end of the game when you're getting into these heavy team fights, you're more likely to call these off. You're more likely to, explode them early, not for damage, but just for the stun. You see how hard this character hits. He really just needs that couple of seconds to stun and set himself up. He doesn't necessarily need the damage from the ult.
Only one kill that round for Virtus.Pro, and that was first blood for Dosups. On to Joel's on that barrack. Ever since then, they got blanked. Got to try and turn that around here. Again, Virtus.Pro will be first to the point. That's been pretty consistent here for Dosups. Kanga was willing to take a slower start last time around as well. Yeah. But I imagine that it'll be a closer eye towards Evil Eye on this round. Joel's, see ya. Hecate with that one. And all of a sudden, looks like Virtus.Pro might be in the clear.
It all happens so fast, and with comeback mechanic for Virtus.Pro, they're already off to an 80% lead. The stun is good, but the heals are there.
Ule right back up to full HP. Get back over here, young one. Evil Eye taken out by the Khan. Gara does manage to take down his enemy support, but it's already overtime ticking at this point. Rhino with a good kill onto Hecate, but chased down by the Khan. Looks like Kanga has regained control of the point, though, at 99% Virtus.Pro still right on the edge.
So you saw, and this is very nicely, set up by Kresnik on the desk. As soon as the overpower comes out, Ashe knows she's safe to assert dominance. She's damage immune, but not CC immune, so Khan is very good at plucking her out of that ultimate and just killing her that way. So very, very nicely played by Kanga. They're definitely watching out for the overpower.
Pacheco trying to find some shots, but not finding a whole lot at this moment. Rhino straight in to distract him along the right-hand side as Kanga continues to tick up, now nearing 70%. Pacheco drops the ultimate. Rhino low, but the reload poorly timed there by Pacheco, and that might be enough for Rhino to get out. Evil Eye's gonna get one. You already know he's getting for that double kill. Chronic's gonna steal it from him, but the end result is the same. Dosups down. Chronic's with another one. As Kanga now with the capture, looking for the 4-0.
I don't believe it, man, but sometimes, and this is a perfect example, it comes down to one shot, one reload, somebody having to take their foot off the gas for a second that decides it all. Maybe it's a Maldamba stun, maybe it's Cassie having to reload, but these split-second, very, very tiny details in the grand scheme of this game make all the difference.
Rhino gets singled out and focused by that overpower. Pacheco finds himself a second kill. Evil Eye gonna be the third. Light him up. It's a triple kill for Pacheco as Kanga forced back. Still plenty of time on the clock, though.
Still definitely looking to come out. Usually when you get capped on, you have some ultimates left over that you just never found a good spot to use. So this is a good time, right? Right after the points capture, Virtus.Pro pop a couple of things, still have some stuff in the tank. But on the flip side, Kanga are not super upset that they lose that fight. They get a lot of ultimates out, and they get to go home and spend the 300 credits that they earned for capturing the payload.
Kate finds Chronix, but he's still in some trouble, able to get around the corner now, hunting onto Evil Eye, and he's bringing it back home. Nice kill there by Hecate. He's on an 8 streak right now, playing right behind this Khan nicely, but immediately Rhino splits the uprights and gets right past that frontliner, takes care of Hecate all by himself.
That was awesome. I mean, Rhino definitely on point. This is the type of aggression that I'm used to seeing, so now you're starting to get an idea of why I was so frustrated with game one. I'm like, this is what they do. They're not afraid to go at these teams. Virtus.Pro is not a team they should be scared of, especially with the suite of ultimates that they have. They are the ones that should be setting the pace of these fights. They're doing a much better job of it on Shadow Desert.
4 out of 5 ultimates ready for Kanga, only missing that Dread Serpent from Maldamba as they get close to the point. Still 40 seconds left on this push as well. Kanga have an option if they want. Here comes Dosem's ultimate, big stun, but it's around the wall. They do find Evil Eye, but Dosem's goes down right after the fact. A 1-for-1 trade. Of course, that does favor the defense, but Khan goes down next. Fasheko down as Chronic stays up. Good healing coming through, and it looks like Kanga are gonna get it done.
Okay, and I think that's a great nod. They win so handily that Cauterize doesn't really have time to come online for Virtus.Pro, and healing makes a big difference. Gara keeping a couple of clutch people alive. It was Rhino on the point when he managed to skirt away from Fish, and it was on the objective there, the conversion at the very end. Chronix barely eking out that 1v1.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you love to see from a team. I mean, Evil Eye's dominant in round 1. He's killing everybody.
Yeah.
So then VP adjusts. They try and focus him out, and that leaves Rhino to go ham on the Ashe. I mean, just a good adjustment of everybody else stepping up there.
Something about Rhino's Ashe, it's not the most popular frontliner for, I don't think, anyone in the league. I don't even think his first choice, but something is special about him when he gets on that character can really, really dominate the game.
We're knotted up, 1 apiece. Let's throw it back to the desk as we get ready for game 3.
Well, you got to slaughter one way, and then you got to slaughter the other way. Both teams have, well, it was a 4-1, I guess, so a little bit better on the side of Virtus.Pro, but a 4-0 this time around for Kanga. What looked like a set that could run away from Kanga if game 2 went the same as game 1 did. Kanga answered back very well.
Yeah, they definitely adapted their draft because they had a similar like aggressive style going into the last map, coming into this one too. But I mean, they've plugged up their mistakes. You know, the BK Tyra focus fire. I mean, look, only 83k damage and how quick of a game that was.
Yeah.
Showing his comfort on that pick and showing that they remembered how to play the Ashe aggression.
That's right. And Joel's is what actually even Ashe. You almost have 4 of the top damage dealers in this game. I think Rhino was just 1,000 or 2 off of Hecate on the opposite side, but that frontline presence, 6-3 and 11, the second or third highest damage in the game, that just allows you to play so differently when you're bullying out on the opposite side. And I guess this is a good example of sort of what I was asking in that, some teams prioritize Ashe higher, some teams prioritize the Khan higher. This game, Khan just could not get comfortable.
Yeah, and this is a really good example of that. Like what both tanks do really, really well. Khan, if the game is slow, can get you those free picks to help you convert. But I mean, if you want to force the issue, you want an Ashe, And actually, a weakness of VP's draft that I didn't mention earlier, the Grover is a lot safer on the close map that's Frog Isle, but on the open map like this, they can always find a way onto it. I mean, like Grover can vine out like on the vertical, he can vine up to a higher vertical plane on Frog and get away and force them to use more cooldowns, but on this map, they could he had the same deaths as everyone else on his team. He went down with them, and if you're playing Grover, you kind of have to. I mean, you have to be right in the mix.
We've seen both sides of Grover sort of in this set so far. Actually, so we've had Virtus.Pro blowing Kanga out of the water on their map pick, on Kanga's map pick, and now we've had Kanga blowing Virtus.Pro out of the water on Virtus.Pro's map pick. So neither team seemingly all that comfortable on whichever map they're going to. But we were kind of joking around about this in the green room, and that like this could be a long set game-wise, but like the games themselves are seemingly so one-sided.
Yeah, yeah, it could be
7-4-0s.
28, well, I guess 29 points over 7 maps. Hard to see. Oh, Bizarre from VP. I guess hopefully they'll think they fixed up the problems from their game against NIP. Although the game against NIP
that's true
looked really, really good, minus the final zone. I mean, it was such a close fight by the end there.
Oh, that's right. You got to cast that one.
Oh,
that one was so much fun.
When I sat on the desk afterwards, I was like the next set after, I'm happy it was like the mic set because I was just like.
That's how I was yesterday. I mean, it was a 4-3 and immediately into a 4-2. By the time I got back here with aggro on the desk, I was like, all right, I can breathe now for a moment. Gore had to go back another 7 game to round out yesterday.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Listen, I loved it.
It was from
from a neutral viewing perspective, I absolutely loved that. Torvald, Makoa, Ashe may be filling the EV ban slot this time around. If they go Atlas, that truly will be the case. Bizarre. So I'll levy a similar question to you. What are some things that maybe work well on Bizarre that stand out to you? It's an interesting map.
Yeah. I think vertical flankers are pretty solid on this map, but double backline, at first I thought vertical flankers were going to be like the way on this map. But as time goes on, I think double backline is really, really strong. A really aggressive off-tank is really powerful because you can just barrel down one of those lanes, and if their team is split, that's free picks.
Right.
I also think BK, very strong pick on this map because he can detonate on the point over the little half walls.
Sure.
And when you're pushing last, he can throw bombs from that balcony, get into that hallway, do a lot of damage that way.
Well, here's an example of maybe Virtus.Pro valuing that Ashe just a little bit higher. Khan, of course, still on the board. Yesterday, notably, talk about vertical flanking. The gates are a big sort of environment part of this map.
Heard they lead to some backcaps.
Yeah, exactly. They could. Random Noob, I think, has done it 3 times in all of his sets this season. Random Ninja or Ninja Noob or whatever he likes to call himself. He's done it 3 times, twice in our sets yesterday. We caught 1, but one of them was so sneaky that we didn't even catch it that time around.
No one in Mixer Chat did either, if it makes you feel better.
Well, it was
no
like
one
ticking
knew.
down, and then it was like a fight going on in the mid. You know, we were casting the fight, talking about what's happening, and then out of nowhere, it's
Team Envy pushed successfully.
I was like, wait a second, there's a minute left on the clock. And the other team
the
is
only
winning.
person who noticed was one dude in a Portuguese chat that just said "Ocajo," which is like the cart. Like, it was the only person out of everything I checked.
It's the little bar up top, but either way, it's very sneaky. So hats off to whoever it was that did capture it. Look at this though, Khan not picked up. Barrack Eevee 1-2 for Kanga this time around. Is this a free Khan for Virtus.Pro, or is Khan just maybe not as great on this map?
I mean, they might be thinking that VP want a point tank, like they're going to force a point tank, but
Sure.
I don't think VP. I think VP would be comfortable taking the Khan. Khan can kind of fill that point tank role. He can just sit on the point. He's not too worried about that. You have the Ashe for the aggression. Now you can have the Khan to contest almost as well as these other point tanks and have that super influential ultimate.
Well, Khan maybe even slipping to 5th here. Getting Hekata and the Leon. I mean, that wasn't necessarily the problem last time around.
To protect the
All right, Khan
sanctity
slips
of the
through again.
wild.
That's very smart thinking on your part. They need a point tank, and Nara is going to fill that role very, very well.
It's nice to
Grover
feel the
actually flipping sides here. So now we've
sunshine
seen Grover 3 games out of 3 in a meta where, you know, we haven't seen him quite as much recently.
The thing about Grover on this map that I personally do not like that much is that, like I mentioned before, how the off tanks, if you have an aggressive off tank that can cover a lot of space, Grover can get really caught out. It really is easy to get on him on this map unless he's being very well protected. And right now they don't even have a DPS that's going to sit with him. I mean, they're gonna end with one, of course, but right now they have the Eevee who's going to probably be on her own. Barrack going to be on point. It's going to be just the Khan and whatever their secondary DPS is protecting this Grover. And Ashley, the Leon burst damage being followed up on by an Ashe crossing the map, that's going to be really hard to deal with.
And it's, you know, Kang have been drafting, I would say, pretty well. Virtus.Pro with a good chance to answer back here. Last time around, they gave Fasheko the Cassie. I believe he had a triple kill on Shattered Desert, so he made that look just fine. I think that would be an okay pick here for him as well. Going for a little bit of that 1-2 punch. Hekate notably on the Leon. Fasheko going down to the Cassie. That's fine. If you look at healers, I'm sure they'll show us in a moment. What do you think rounds out for Virtus.Pro here?
I'm looking at their comments. Probably just going to be a Damba, honestly. I mean, maybe Ying just for like a preference pick. Ooh, Furia. Okay, interesting.
It's been such a wide healer meta.
You can play so many healers. It really does just come down to. Now, since Tyra's banned, I think they're doing the Furia to have a little more sustain than the Genos and to have this supplement with the damage boost with the healing. She also has some interesting stuff she can do from like under, where she can beam straight down the pathway and you don't know it's coming.
Right.
Just some kind of cheese stuff with that.
I'm trying to imagine that. You're running around trying to fight and then out of nowhere a beam appears.
It's even funnier on Serpent Beach.
Yeah.
When you're like all the way up there and you're
That's
like, where?
If she's underneath you, it just beams the crap out of you. Yeah. I imagine that's kind of tilting. Kanga have one more, we would assume, damage dealer. All right. Could be the Buck. Yeah, apparently now this is a thing. You know, 2 days ago, it was his.
I can't share my thoughts on the Buck situation. I don't know yet.
Right,
they're gonna. I don't think they could do double flanker against the VP composition. The VP composition is so anti-flank right now.
Is that why you pick somebody who's kind of plant and shoot like a Victor is?
I think. I think they. It's hard to say. I think we would probably pick a Vivian over that there.
Yeah.
But Victor is still pretty solid. But I mean, you can tell by the win rate, like he really needs his niche, and I don't think this is it. I think the Leon and the Ashe. The Pocus might just be too much for him to deal with.
So you think the Virtus.Pro have a bit of an edge? You think they bounce back here in Game 3?
I think the double backline plus taking away the aggressive tool of the Ashe is going to be too much for Kanga to overcome.
Well, the last time we saw Bazaar, it went 7, and Virtus.Pro was in that game as well. 7 games, 7 points, I should say. This one, we have had a 4-1. We've had a 4-0 as well, so not nearly as long games up to this point. It's been sort of a tug of war. Kanga definitely have a tall task ahead of them. I mean, what's their route to finding a win? I mean, we say Virtus.Pro have the advantage. What does Kanga need to do in order to win this game?
Evoli has to really find
Yeah.
his space. He needs to get that pick on a backline.
Well, Game 3 about to get underway. Let's send it down to Nick Pretty Hair Keogh and a man who understands Smite so well because he himself is a god, Ryan Aggro Bailey.
That might be your best one yet, Dave. Thank you very much to you and Kresnik. Game 3 about to kick off now. We're one apiece. Both teams have gotten absolutely gobsmacked at least once
Yeah.
so far. But as Dave said, last time we saw Bazaar, it was a long one. Potentially that could be the case here today.
So it's a double-edged sword, a positive feedback loop, if you will. Not only is this the newest map in the game, so people are still getting used to it, figuring it out, has a lot of unique things about it, including a colossal point, very, very large, as well as these gates. You'll see everybody go through them, but your gates only open on your side of the map. Blue team opens blue gates, red team opens red gates. You have to follow a red team member through the red or vice versa. So people still figure this out. In combination, it's just a tough map to push through on.
Can be difficult for sure. We saw Envy actually back cap on this map yesterday when we saw it, so that's something you have to watch out for. Watch out for Hecate. He's already got first blood and looking for a second one. Barrick just able to get around the corner there. And Hecate on one of his signature picks. Chronix does find Vex, and that's big to take out the support this early in an engagement.
Yeah, no more healing for this big, bulky front line. You can start to see the VP front line kind of backpedaling after losing Vex, realizing that, you know, we have to kind of let this one go for a little while. Clean break is what we're looking for, though. Virtus.Pro don't want to lose anyone else while Vex is on his way back.
Evil Eye able to take out Hecate as well, but Kanga's already around 60% on that point. A great start for them. They continue to stagger these picks one at a time. It's not a big, clean team wipe or anything like that, but if you can just knock down one, knock down another, it's hard to come in and contest, but Virtus.Pro still gonna do what they can. Chronix still in a great spot to try and oversee this, and here comes the barrage right on top of this little area. Chronix is able to get Vex with it. Overtime starts to tick down. Kanga still gonna take the first point. Double kill for Chronix. Rhino able to throw one up in the air and finish off Pacheco. Kanga keeps it going as they wipe up VP.
Very, very well done. The thing I like the most from that Kanga team fight is after giving up first blood, they didn't quite give up. You know what I mean? Losing their support, you saw Virtus.Pro, even though it was only a one-for-one trade at the end of the day, but they had to back up. Losing that sustain, it makes it very difficult to win a team fight. So I like that Kanga, despite giving up the first blood, sort of lower their shoulder and continue to go at that team fight. And they salvage it, now they're pushing as a result.
Pretty narrow corridor that this payload's coming to, though, and you can see VP kind of hanging on both sides, but Pacheco is a little bit isolated right now, and Joel's able to take him down with ease. Rhino finds the ashes at the same time. Looks like Kanga's in a pretty good spot as they round the bend.
This is a very good spot. This is the hardest corner to break. The spawn is right there. You can see the spawn doors themselves, and these picks are coming through very staggered. Look at the respawn times, 10, 6, 2. They're all about 4 seconds apart, so VP is gonna have a tough time getting their feet back under them.
Minute and 25 still to go as we really reach the edge right away of this push. Rhino get the first one. Hecate again falls pretty early on in the fight. A nice little hide in the corner, but Pacheco still able to get the job done. But that doesn't stop Kanga. They push it in on the back of Evil Eye and Joel's.
I mean, Rhino's doing phenomenal things on this off-tank role, really kind of playing that lone wolf style, and that's something that's Kanga's really good going for them. Garrett can kind of pay attention to this Barrick and this Victor. Evie has a lot of self-sustain built into her kit. Khan has probably the most self-sustain of any frontliner built into his kit. So they really have the freedom and to just make the decision of, I'm going to go off on my own for a little while away from Grover. Tell Garrett he's okay. He doesn't have to worry about me. I've got my own self-sustain to worry and take care of myself. And because of those decisions, I think Kanga put themselves in a really, really good spot to play around this Grover.
Yeah, and the Grover pick, I mean, something that clearly Virtus.Pro really liked in the first two games, but just by looking at the way that this payload moves, you have to kind of group up around that narrow corridor.
Yep.
You have to be together no matter what, so Grover can help you out in that regard, but cauterizes will start coming through sooner rather than later. That might end up hurting this composition for Kanga. Hecate right back in the same spot, but this time, again, just a little bit short, finishing off that bear. Dome Shield comes out perfectly for him at the same time. Hecate looking for a final blow, but can't find one quite yet, but Kanga has certainly been pushed out. Pacheco locked down by that EV ultimate. As Evil Eye just hiding for the moment, Hecate does finally get first blood in this round, taking out Evil Eye as Pacheco finds Joel's at the same time. Kanga starting to fall apart.
A 2 for nothing. The comeback mechanics enabled. There's really not a lot of timelines I see Kanga Esports actually coming back into this one, at least in this round. The overpower is popped, but at the end of the day, Virtus.Pro get what they came for.
Ule does fall to that overpower, but as you mentioned, it's already a little bit too late for defending the point itself. Sheko finds another kill onto Evil Eye. Certainly a bit of focus so far. Great roll backwards for Sheko, right out of the way, and puts Rhino in a bad spot. But Kanga still surging forward. Virtus.Pro have not mounted a push quite yet, but it's starting to look their way. Chronic's down to Fasheko's hands. Fasheko finds 2, Dosups a 3rd, and Virtus.Pro finally gets the train rolling.
Getting in a rhythm, man, that's what Cassie's about. I think that's a character that Fasheko doesn't normally find himself on unless the situation calls for it. When he wants to transition to something a little bit more flexible that either he or Hakate can play, this is that solution for him. He's done a really good job coming into his own and evolving his game. And that's what a lot of people have had to do in a lot of situations. Talked about the off tanks, but we mentioned, Alex earlier. He's typically the hit scan for NIP, but has also evolved his game to be able to play something like the Eevee when necessary.
Good push back here from Kanga. They get 2. Fasheko slayed by Chronix, but not before he took down Gera. Despite the 2-for-1, that's in the defense's favor. That's going to be enough to stymie this push for at least a moment. About halfway right now for Virtus with about a minute left on the clock.
And the cool thing for Kanga is that defensive point is still on the table here. If they hold, they're going to go up 3-1. You can only win the game off of capturing a payload or converting a payload. Some type of offensive successful action there. As this sort of middle-of-the-road skirmish comes through, let's take a look at some of the items as these guys are going to be getting more towards those level 2s. Maybe some people even hitting the level 3 mark. Nobody there quite just yet because you're seeing everybody quickly wanting to divert into either a second offensive item or a resilience.
A couple options available to those players. Evil Eye wants to get the party started. Fasheko's already down. Evil Eye looking to make it even more. He'll find one. That Ash falls down. And there's a good stall here onto this push. Inara eventually does fall. Good stagger by Virtus.Pro, or onto Virtus.Pro by Kanga. 15 seconds left, and it's quite the hike to get to where this payload is.
Sure is. All ultimates except for Grover's Whirlwind are available, so offense usually sets the pace of how these overtime payload pushes are going to go. If they want to go for conversion, Kanga are a lot of times okay for them because they often exhaust themselves for the mid-fight in the next round, and then it becomes an easy capture and potential game-ending push for Kanga Esports. With the first 2 picks already going Kanga's way, I don't expect much more out of VP.
No, as soon as Ule goes down, I think that really takes the winds out of the sails of that potential push by VP. Good stout defense there by Kanga. And that corner that was so easily broken by Kanga really did clog up VP.
That's why it was so important for them to get rolling there early. Speaking of rolling, Fasheko on the Cassie. Kind of a slow first round. Learning how to position. I think he got caught out in a couple of weird spots that were just not ideal for him to be, but can be such a powerful mid-range pick. Also, very good anti-flank. I think both Cassie and Leon have good matchups, as good as you could ask for against Eevee. Despite all that, though, Evil Eye still sitting 5-2, one of the better slash lines in this game.
Doing very well for himself. Not on a streak, though, so everyone else on Kanga streaking right now. 7-8-8-6 down the line for them as they look to get the win here. VP do expend that Cassie ult right away. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. They've got plenty ults to use. Dome Shield comes down for Joel for him to get some positioning advantage. Gera trying to get involved as well. He'll tether right back in. Beautifully done by him. And Kanga looking like they're in a good spot. Overpower will take down Fasheko as well. Whirlwind comes out just to help out in case. And that Grover's able to get the job done. Evil Eye takes down Vex at the exact same time. Kanga looking good.
Tried to thread the needle on that assert dominance, but Ule does not land where I think he absolutely wanted to. He wanted to get back up onto the high ground and stun those 3 members out. He just falls to the low ground and Walk of Shames his way up the ramp, forgoes his damage immunity. That was a tough way for that to go, but it was absolutely the reason Virtus.Pro lost that fight.
54 and climbing for Kanga. Doing a good job of keeping Virtus.Pro out. They only have Leon Ultimate to try and get in here and contest, where you've got Barrage coming, you've got Eevee Ultimate. Those are good AoE coverage for the point. Should Kanga need them? 96% now, 99. And we do see Inara get in there. You get the touch. As Pacheco does knock down Rhino, but at the same time, they get 2 for 1. Elsewhere, Evil Eye into that ice block. He keeps himself alive for at least a minute, but Joseph's punishes him eventually. Overtime ticking down now as Kanga right on the verge. There's Anara getting lower, but Pacheco seems to be the focus. Garrett can't quite find it, and that might be enough to let Virtus.Pro back on the point.
Close, but no cigar. You could see Evie blinks in, blinks out. I thought she was going to go for the Ice Storm the first time around.
Right.
Blinks back out, soars back in. It was like a foregone conclusion. I'm like, you know, you should have just ulted the first time. Things get a little bit desperate. Pacheco pops Scout for CC immunity, stays alive, circumvents the Ice Storm. Guerra had to dive to try and get that one through, and now Virtus.Pro are just back in the driver's seat.
Now it's VP with overtime ticking down in their favor. Hekate's already removed Joel's from this engagement, and Virtus.Pro are going to get the point. Hekate find themselves 2, make that 3 as Chronix falls, and it's a clean wipe for Virtus.Pro, starting to push the payload back into Kanga's side.
No, they don't have the opportunity to end the game, and remember we talked about that defensive point. It's no longer on the table. This will just be still 2-3 if Virtus.Pro fail here, so not a ton of pressure. You've seen teams in the past, funnily enough, it was a former iteration of Virtus.Pro, really adopt the mantra of the mid-fight is the only thing that matters. Do not spend ultimates on anything but the point fight. We will lose every payload push. It doesn't matter as long as at the end of the day we win that 3-3 point fight. We get so good at doing just that, and that's our bread and butter.
Certainly an option for them here. It looks like their push will be stalled, at least momentarily, but we've got a couple ultimates if they want to use them. Assert Dominance available. We've got Cassie and Anara ults on top of that, but Kanga's got some ults to boast of as well. So I imagine, I mean, this is exactly what they saw last time, Nick. This seems to be a problem point for this comp to get through.
Right, and as we head later into this game, seismic crashes, assert dominances, all these crowd control things that Virtus.Pro rely on are going to start to fall off. You saw almost everybody from Kanga go into resilience very early in this game, so at this point, they're probably just about ready to finish up these resiliences, meaning Virtus.Pro have to find another win condition in their fight because their CC is just not there anymore.
So plenty of damage between Cassie and Leon, but a little bit harder to land it when the opposition isn't stunned in front of you. So it's something to worry about. So Virtus.Pro has rounded the bend. 45 seconds left, and they've got a pretty short way to push this. But I agree. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to expend a whole lot of ultimates from this position. Joseph's eating a bunch of bullets from Chronix.
Yeah, wow.
As Puleule isolated and knocked down. Rhino's able to get that last tally, but Virtus.Pro immediately sent packing.
It's just such a bottleneck, such a choke point. Now, you could say that could be a double-edged sword. It could go either way, forcing both teams really to group up if they want to maintain that line of sight. But Victor, just one of the most punishing characters at holding an alleyway, holding a line, and shooting down it. Does so much DPS, so consistent with the hit scan, has the ability to damage around corners as well with the grenades. Very, very simple character, but a lot of nuance to make him effective.
Kanga with the successful defense. Still 3-2 overall, 1 point cap away for Kanga. Virtus.Pro, as you mentioned, might just be playing for the double midpoint cap in order to come back in this one.
Well, taking a look at some of the replays here, the mid-range is where Virtus.Pro are going to look to be successful. This is the anti-flank potential. Anytime you dive onto Leon, there's a potential that that just happens to you. You get bursted, blown up, and Lightman's the best single 1v1 turnaround type ultimate in the game. Cassie has Blast Shot. It's one of the most effective ways to, you know, front load 15 to 1600 damage onto a character that only has 1800. So Evil Eye, very careful, still maintaining a good slash line though through it all.
Man, Cauterize 3 done for 4 members of Virtus.Pro here. Everyone but Vex is really shutting down this healing coming from Gera, and when that output isn't quite as normal as some of the more traditional healers, I think that could hurt Gera potentially in this spot. Rhino rolling forward, but so is Pacheco looking for the final blow onto Gera. He goes down first. Next goes Chronix. It's a double kill for Pacheco, looking for a third. Eevee blinking away, but it could be the Khan instead that will be the ire of his focus. No, that's Barrick, excuse me, as he goes down. Khan was next. I was just a little bit ahead in the script. Pacheco 4 kills on this point fight, and Virtus.Pro off to an early lead.
Funny that you bring up Cauterize, because that's it right there. Garrett tried to wind up the Whirlwind. That's a 2,500 per second healing per second ultimate that just didn't matter. The healing is no longer sticking for Kanga Esports. They are very susceptible to be bursted down.
They're going to try and get some poke in as he walks, but 99% overtime already there for Virtus.Pro, but Pacheco goes down. Joel's gets some revenge on the enemy. Cassie, Ash getting low as well. Vex there to pocket. As overtime is ticking down, it's now just Doseps left on the point. He's going to have to give up that ground, whether by force or by choice. Force it is, though he gets Rhino at the same time. That's a bit of a surprise that he was able to get someone in the midst of all that chaos.
Yeah, and it makes a potential avenue for Virtus.Pro to come back. 99%. They made sure they had a clean disengage, a clean break again, if you will. And Kanga Esports don't have a ton of ultimates left. If they can get this overpower up quickly and re-stagger Virtus.Pro, that is their way out of this game.
99% Kanga. Remember, if they win this mid-fight, they're going up 2-1 in this set. It's not going to be easy. Good blink in, but Evil Eye just misses the shot. But Pacheco grabbed, and Joel's able to get the finishing blow. Hekate going to be trying 1v1, but again, that Enlightenment just a little bit too good. That forces Evil Eye back, but Chronic's able to take out the Ash. Now Kanga starting to surge forward. Whirlwind coming out. That Cauterize not quite as easily applied now with a lot of these damage dealers down. Joel's able to take care of the other support. Bang! And a great shot from Chronix as well. Overtime ticking down, and it's Kanga going up 2-1.
Loved it. There's so much that went well for Kanga there that they executed. You know, it wasn't like, you know, happenstance or anything. They just very, very effective through that last fight. Evil Eye put a lot of good poke onto Ash. Very high value overpower. They're surgically removing Pacheco from that team fight. Somebody called out to Evil Eye that Leon was low in the back corner. Hekate gets pushed down. He baits out not one, but two ultimates with that dive and simply wormholes his way back out. Super effective final fight there from Kanga. That's what I'm expecting from this squad when it comes to ultimate usage.
Impressive, especially when you consider how easily that point fight started on the other side for Virtus.Pro, but it's Kanga who go up 2-1 now. Let's throw it back to the desk for them to break it down.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Aggro, of course. Game number 2 on Bazaar. That is not a 7-game. Bazaar that we got. It was pretty lopsided in favor of Kanga. They really controlled the early game, I think, as you said. A little bit of a fight back though from Virtus.Pro.
Yeah, VP, they had, I mean, they just had really solid aggression from their backlines.
Yeah.
I think they found the hole at first, at least in that mid that they ended up taking. But in that final mid, Kanga, even after Fishigo had that insane pop-off play, I mean, he just absolutely controlled the game, I think, for VP there when they were in the driver's seat. But later, once Ivoli had that position where he just was not contested, he could just poke. He saw where VP was trying to aggress, just kept harassing Pule. Pule couldn't get any lifesteal, couldn't sustain himself. It just all crumbled.
And you know, Chronix, it's important that Chronix was able to counter out a lot of the damage that Pacheco was doing. Both of them, you know, above 120,000. And Pacheco's the only guy who seemingly had any footing on the Virtus.Pro side. So many positive slash lines for Kanga. I think literally one for Virtus.Pro, and 2 guys on Virtus.Pro as well. Killless throughout that entire game. You know, supports may be good for 1 or 2, you know, 3, 4 a game, but it's, you know, just confirming those kills that's so important. How about this Victor pick? It paid off.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see from this footage, right? You cannot ignore a Victor. A Victor that is not being paid attention to will just absolutely go off on your team. His weakness is that when you do pay attention to him, he doesn't have the same ability to just plant his feet down and just scream, "I'm here." You know, he can't do that as much as some of these other backlines can.
Right.
So, as you can see in those clips, they're kind of focused on other things. They're worrying about the other threats, the tanks pushing into them, and Chronix just was able to free farm.
And I want to kind of open the doors on this because this is something we've sort of had like in passing comments, but we look forward to MSI, and you know, obviously it's a cross-play LAN. I mean, this has got to be good for console teams, right? That Victor and Tyra and Vivian are coming into meta.
Yeah, I mean, it's because of their comfort with it, but you got to remember that they're allowed to use mouse and keyboard.
That's true.
You're
right.
And if they didn't, then PC teams would pick an Eevee and, you know, they blink over and they go.
Yeah. That's
a lot of them play with Hisense. They'll be able to react. The
Right.
console players have talent, but I think a lot of them are going to be using mouse and keyboard, at least a decent amount. I heard some of them were scrimming with it.
Yeah, that's absolutely a new storyline to watch through, though. But if nothing else, they'll be happy to see that you know, some of their big picks are starting to come through here. 4-3 Bazaar, so it wasn't as grueling. It did end up going 7 points. It didn't feel as grueling though as it did the last time Virtus.Pro was there. It sort of felt like Kanga were really in control, and Virtus.Pro were kind of able to chip away a win or 2 throughout there. Ice Mines, though.
Actually, first... Oh, no. This is a pretty common pick by VP. I can add a little cross mark to my tally.
What is that?
It's a
what
talent.
what are those?
They're lines you do to signify
To
numbers.
count things? Oh, well, that's over my head. I've never. Ice Mines, though, this is a map that we've seen a couple times over the past couple of days. And I think notably yesterday maybe was it against you guys? Maybe
No,
we saw Ice
we
Mines.
banned it both games.
Okay, so you banned out Ice Mines. Maybe it was one of the two, or the game in the middle that maybe.
Knights game.
And we saw, I think it was a Pip Bomb King.
Yes.
And yeah, that's right. And then Random Noob was on Drogos, just
Yeah, there was
shredding with Combustible. But
Getting
it's
4-man hits
right.
with Ying Illusions.
It's an interesting map in that, compositions like that can work. This is a map where some of those close quarters AoE blasters can really flourish.
Yeah, I mean, it's a map that really has always had a different draft than other maps. I mean, Ice and Timber historically are like the two outliers from the rest of the game. I think Fish is almost going to join them nowadays, but they've always had like a different, unique draft style. And any character, what I said at the PWC qualifiers was that I think circles are very strong on this map.
Yeah.
Big zoning circles. So Dredge is a character that saw play on this map when he saw play nowhere else. When Tyra wasn't being picked everywhere, you were seeing her. And Nara was like a really strong value first pick.
Right.
All these characters that can just zone an area because this map's just so many small little chokes. They've always been high value, but no matter what map you're on,
Yeah.
you're going to want Khan.
Who was it?
That's like a slogan.
Actually, yeah, you're right. No matter what map you're on, American campaigning for re-election somewhere.
You're going to want Khan. Khan 2020.
No matter what map you're on, you want Khan. Virtus.Pro want Khan this time around. It was funny. We sat down with Pule and talked to him about Makoa, and we sort of say, all right, well, what maps is Makoa bad on? He said, literally nothing. Makoa is kind of good anywhere. Some better or worse, but you'd be happy if he slips through the ban phase and comes to you. Khan, number 1 for Virtus.Pro. Ashe and Nara, not that surprising on the side of Kanga, just wanting to get a little bit of extra staying power, some bully power with the Ashe as well. And that's sort of been the matchup, Ashe versus Khan, who can bully out one another. At the end of the day, it's maybe not an inherent advantage, just one person can kind of outplay the other.
Actually, Kanga can still play this draft kind of defensive.
Yeah.
It's what Envy does. I think it's what they did on this map yesterday.
Sure.
Where they held Rubu, their off tank, right in front of the door by the stage,
Right.
on by the cliffside. And he just locks that down, doesn't move until they get a pick, and then, Ashe's value comes in her ability to cross the entire map because Ice Mine's mid is so small.
Right.
So you can pounce at a moment, but he can still use the ability to shoot around corners to kind of deny any cover that they take trying to push into them. So they still have a pretty flexible draft.
And Cassie, obviously Fasheko has played the Cassie the last couple of games, but Hecate very comfortable on that champion as well. I think the Damba's good here, provides some of that splash AoE healing. That's a circle, and his Dread Serpent is a circle
that
as well.
200 DPS tick, that's
right.
That's good. I mean, it gets more kills than you think.
Right, no,
a lot of the
it's
time
absolutely
you see
true.
Damba get kills on someone
Right.
in a fight. It's that all the time. But BK going 2 is not surprising. He's been really strong on this map. Royal Subjects giving him the ability to shoot around corners. Also combining with Nara and Ashe, maybe he just wants to run chain reaction and get some easy chained kills before Resilience comes online.
You have a show called Chain Reaction.
I do have a show
It's
called
on
Chain
tonight,
Reaction.
isn't it?
It is on tonight. I didn't know I was allowed to plug that, Dave.
You're maybe not, but I just
Oh,
did it for
well,
you.
thank
Either
you.
way. Drogos does come through. Barrick rounds things out for the Virtus.Pro
He rounds a
lineup.
thing out or two.
He's also a circle, Bomb King a circle. On a map of circles, we get a lot of them here. Drogos Combustible really flourishes, I think, on a map like this. You saw Random Noob doing that yesterday. And Kanga have kind of left this last flex open and kind of hiding their last card.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell what they're going to do. They could just go a standard backline, like maybe a Shaolin, even though his ult gets countered by
Another
Cassie.
Victor.
Another Victor. That is interesting. I mean, his ult is a couple circles. He can chase around corners with a grenade.
Numerous circles.
Is one part of it.
That's right.
He's got to hope that they aren't able to get onto him. But unlike Kanga's draft, VP's draft doesn't really have that option to push.
Right.
I mean, the Khan Cassie can kind of walk across the stage, but there's nothing immediate that Victor can't sprint away from. So I don't hate this pick.
And Victor, it worked so well for them. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Fasheko on the Cassie last game had highest damage, but Chronix being able to hang right up there, finding the kills, that's so important. And then, again, on this map, as you were saying, controlling some of that space, the grenade is good in a map where sometimes you have some clumped up team fights. So I think the Victor could actually work out yet again here, but to see how it all plays out, let's send it down to your casters. Nick, Pretty Hair Keo, and a man who just this morning I mistook for 5-time Mr. Universe winner Eddie Elwood, Ryan Agro Bailey.
I get that all the time. In fact, I've actually developed an alternate signature because it's just easier for me to sign all these fan stuff as Eddie and then just move on with my life. So understandable, Dave. No need to apologize again. But Kanga looking to go up 3-1 here. This Grover pick has been really, really prevalent so far.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I have to say, it's less surprising from Vex than it is from Gera, but the healers have just been all over the place. Basically everything can be played. It just kind of comes down to what your personal preference is. I think Grover lends himself very well to a lot of different maps, but like I said, it really requires you and pigeonholes you into a sort of play style, at least when it comes to positioning.
Man, I was saying Frog Isle's got some jams. That was a
No, Ice Mines bangs out too.
That was a slapper for sure. Bring that back. Let's just keep that rolling in the background the whole time. That's what I'm asking
Every time
for.
a team fight breaks out.
Yeah, oh, that'd be sweet, dude. I'd get into that for sure. That could be the right idea. But here we go, getting us started off. Basically every single time it has been Virtus.Pro first to the point, but this is the first time the Doceps is not on that Inara. Instead, on the Barrack. We'll see how that impacts it. Joel's this time is able to take that away, but it doesn't stop Virtus.Pro, still first to the point. They love getting these little quick percentages, and Kanga seemed pretty content to give it up. 24% already in Virtus.Pro's corner, but starting to get pushed back a little bit. Good angle of attack here by Kanga coming through that little alleyway. Evil Eye gets the first blood as he takes out the enemy blaster.
This is like looking like the full surround here. Bule Ule surges forward onto the enemy support, but Gera takes him toe-to-toe. I love it. You can see both teams very careful about how they do this dance on Ice Mines because the walk back from spawn is so long. The zone on this map is brutal. There is a good chance that if you lose the first fight cleanly, you don't get a second fight.
42%. Ice Mines is kind of what I expected all of my grandparents' living situations to be like growing up, because it's always that they walked uphill both ways to get to school. That's kind of Ice Mines, man. It is not easy. Wall comes up from Joel's, but it's enough to let Doceps through. Vex up on the high ground right now, trying to put in shots, but Kanga already at 99%. Overtime begins as Chronic's able to put some shots into Fasheko, force him back. Now, nearly booped him off the ledge, but not quite. Khan finally able to get in there and get some damage rolling. Hecate and Fasheko each claim one. Hecate will find a second. Fasheko, not to be outdone, grabs himself a second. And just like that, Virtus.Pro right back in control.
Here comes the zone down the hill. This is uphill both ways, literally in the snow at this point. Virtus.Pro win a very clean, quick team fight as well. There's nobody to stop the bleeding on the objective for Kanga Esports, so it's close, but no cigar, and it comes all back. It's very funny how this can happen, but that little 32% that Docep grabbed in the very, very first engagement in this round comes back to be the difference maker.
I think the question is, it's obviously going to impact you there, but does giving yourself that positioning in the early point, is it worth the risk of losing the point outright? Because do you think that contributes to Virtus.Pro losing that first engagement on the mid point?
It's a tough call. It's going to be kind of a 50-50 split in my mind, because it comes down to if you lose that fight, Kanga still have to zone you effectively. I will say that wall was the right place, but not quite pixel perfect in its placement. It was the idea there was to separate Doceps and Fasheko more effectively. Did not quite do that. Fishy was still able to kind of just fall through and continue to get that poke. You saw the he almost booped Chronix off the map because he was allowed through at that particular angle. So the zone could have been better from Kanga.
Well, here's a pretty good zone coming from Kanga. They've already lost the midpoint though, so it's 1-0 in Virtus.Pro's favor, but you want to talk about uphill both ways. Now they've got to walk uphill and through the point in order to get back towards the payload. It'll take them a bit, but it's looking pretty good for them. All of a sudden, they find 3 kills. It's only a matter of time until they find the 4th. Hecate with another, and a beautiful bounce back from Virtus.Pro. Right back on the push, but a minute to go, and it's not exactly right around the river bend here.
I like it. And Ice Mines, again, one of the geographically longest pushes from point to finish. So when you win, or when you lose these little skirmishy mid-round team fights, we honestly just glossed over them in every other map, but you kind of have to talk about them here, because if you lose even one, then you put yourself in a really, really tight scenario or in a race against the clock where you lose one cleanly. You're talking about an overtime scenario already. So you can see the clock already winding down. Only 30 seconds left after just that one team fight loss from Virtus.Pro. They do a good job, just pop overpower. make it a clean break, get back into the game, give yourself an actual attempt at this round. But again, it is going to come down to the wire.
Overpower nearly back up anyways, though. Rhino does fall, so that buys Virtus.Pro a couple more feet on this payload push within the last 10 seconds before overtime will begin. This is where Vex, though, on this Grover can make some money, right? I mean, get yourself in a good spot as Overpower actually yoinked Evil Eye right up top, and they toss him off the ledge. Joel finds Dosups at the same time, though, and that might be a problem. Joel does use the ultimate in order to try and get a stun. Puleule does fall just barely around the shield, and that will do it for the push. Successful defense for Kanga, but it did cost them at least one ultimate.
Yeah, it costed them Seismic Crash, but they got Overpower out from Virtus.Pro, and that's something I think they can be happy with at the end of the day. That was really nicely done by Kanga, honestly. The CC chain onto Puleule was flawless. He never even stood back up. Immediately just kept down by the stun from Gera as well. There was plenty of damage there. Loved everything I saw about that. There's still plenty of good ultimates to work with for Virtus.Pro. Playing around this Dome Shield and this Dragon Punch is going to be critical. The Dome Shield is going to create space for Fasheko to likely get that one-hit KO off safely and without losing his life. The only real counterplay to Dragon Punch is to try and kill Drogos in the small moments that he's vulnerable immediately after landing the punch.
So Kanga right back on the horse, literally, and riding back towards the point. As you mentioned, a lot of ultimates still up for them. Gera still has his, of course. Vex on the other side, no Whirlwind available for him quite yet. Surprise, surprise, Virtus.Pro get a couple garbage time points on the point, 18%. In fact, and Dosup's gonna step right back up. Joel's falls early on, and Ash says, yeah, I don't really like where I'm at anymore. He hits the escape button, but all of a sudden right back, Fasheko getting low and finally taken down by Rhino. Chronix down to just a sliver of HP as well, but he's still standing. Good stun chain here.
Pule.
Rhino doing what he can, but Pule still standing strong. In fact, he's gonna take down Evil Eye. Now Rhino's gotta try and escape, but he gets body blocked. Hecate with that one, 50% now and counting for Virtus.Pro.
What a back and forth. I mean, frankly, both teams utilizing sort of the same technique there. As one team thinks they're about to start to win, they sort of group up to dogpile on and really make the victory a reality. But because they group up, they made themselves vulnerable to assert dominance, vice versa. As soon as Rhino gets a nice little turnaround kill, then everybody from Kanga starts to maybe breathe new life into that attack, and Virtus.Pro is able to punish accordingly.
Now, is this a position now that you've capped both midpoints in a row for Virtus.Pro, that you might be a little bit more willing to dump some ultimates to try and convert this payload push because that makes it that much harder for Kanga to come back?
Yeah, I think they've already shown, you know, in the first round that they're not afraid to dump ultimates, but Kanga not afraid to pop them either. And this is because of how hard these conversions can be at times. One of those maps where you really will draft for the mid fight. You don't draft with the conversion push in mind. You kind of just like try, you just do your best and see what happens. Sometimes you get it through, sometimes you don't. But, you know, 99% of the time teams are drafting to be able to fight in mid.
Man, how many times have Fasheko and Hecate both gotten doubles to win a fight here for Virtus.Pro? Impressive stuff from them. Some quick feet there from Gera, keep him up and healthy. But man, I mean, that's 2 or 3 times at least that both Fasheko and Hecate have gotten double kills. And now Kanga's really on the back foot. In fact, right on the edge is this payload. Overpower comes through, but it's Puleule who gets yoinked right out of there. Gera does eventually fall anyways to Fasheko's rockets, but that's still a big win to take out that con. Joel's backed into the corner, but he's still doing okay down there. Keep it healthy. Evil Eye falls again to Fasheko. This Drogo's really causing problems.
It's just been phenomenal with the Drogos. Both games that he's played Combustible on Frog Isle and here on Ice Mines. It's an older style, but it checks out, sir. I think Rhino's done a phenomenal job as well, trying to keep him on a leash. You can see him battling this dragon. Uphill battle, though. It's bopped down to the low ground, not before he grabs a kill on Hecate.
Dread Serpent expended. Dosups walks right back into it and ends up getting feared away. Chronix takes advantage of that. Puleule now left on this point, but Vex on the way, gonna try and heal him up as Fasheko still here raining in those pot shots. 30 seconds still on this contest.
We go again.
But here we go. Rhino tries to get in the face, Puleule falls, and that'll stall out Virtus.Pro for at least a little bit. Can Pule even get back to this point in the next 20 seconds?
It'll take him about that much time to arrive, so somebody else is probably going to have to start overtime, which is cool. They have Barak here. He'll be fine. But Virtus.Pro did spend that Whirlwind to try and get that one through. Overpower, I want to say, missed. Just given it goes back to 30%. You get a little bit refunded if you miss. Don't ask me why. And now we're back to the 60% mark, so they won't have it available for this fight.
Well, Nick, I'd be sad if I didn't get that. That's what you got to remember. Puleule is able to take down Evil Eye, but they've already lost Dosups, and there goes the second tank. Pule down, Vex soon to follow, and that should neuter the push. Kanga able to get another successful defense. This one, though, much closer.
Oh, yeah. You hear the bell ring. Chronix got the kill with that grenade there, and I think Joel and Gara do a really good job keeping the gloves up. Their backs are against the ropes for literally 1 minute and 30 seconds. That was about as mathematically fast as possible as Virtus.Pro could have gotten to the finish line there, but they never were able to cross it because of the defensive effort from Inara and Maldamba.
Man, Pacheco's just grooving right now. I mean, he is really in a great spot. His potential on this Drogos, look at that. Pull! Yeah, I got that one. Easy for me, man. Just incredible from him so far. The damage dealt certainly very high, highest on his squad. Though, of course, Chronix pumping in the deeps on the Victor.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him in the up on the balcony for that full minute and a half, pretty much free firing. You know, they have Grover to try and chunk away, but he's literally touching. He's like butt cheeks to the spawn door. He can dip in for sustain at any moment he needs to, and he's going to open up this mid fight.
Chronix finding good shots on a Puleule, who's got to use that bit of immunity to get back and safe. Pacheco says, or no, it's Hekate rather, just says, yeah, I'll get up here, but Chronix finds himself a quick trip, and all of a sudden it's a trip back to base for Virtus.Pro. 30% now and climbing for Kanga. They've got complete control.
But where's the zone for Kanga? It's virtually non-existent. You can see Barrick and Pacheco are basically knocking at the door as if they never left. 69 and climbing for Kanga Esports. Big ultimates still left. They need to make sure that they set the pace. That's been the problem that they've faced all set long, and I don't want it to happen again.
Serpent used there, it sounded like. Indeed it was. King Bomb coming through from Evil Eye. Stun was there on Hekate, but he still falls to the hand of Dosups. Anyways, Rhino soon to follow. Pacheco finds yet another one. Gara trying to retreat towards the safe haven at 99%. Kanga just short of being able to secure it. Joel's doing what he can, but it's not enough. Virtus.Pro reclaim the point.
A rerun of round one, in my opinion. About 30% on the objective when Virtus.Pro, they have a look at this zone. This is what happens. This is what I was talking about when I'm saying there's a lot of times you don't get that second chance on ice mines. If Virtus.Pro continue to do stuff like this versus what Kanga are doing on their zones, and I don't know why they're not getting that confident. I mean, they have Victor, they have a super long-range hit scan character. Just dismount everyone, and then you go get back to safety. But they just have not taken the risk.
Overpower used pretty early here, but it looks like it may pay off. Evil Eye fell alongside Joel's Rhino, soon to follow Chronix as well. Now it's only Gara left standing. And I was going to say, I mean, it seems a little bit odd to use such a key ultimate that early on in the engagement, but this is going to buy Virtus.Pro a whole lot of mileage.
Right, they want to get this one rolling through early. Their situation last round was ideal. They get to the finish line as soon as possible, and they just have all kinds of time to try and find a way to sneak this payload the last couple of feet to get it home. You get into trouble when you lose that fight near the objective. Then Kanga can push forward, risk-free, to try and basically zone you, even losing that fight as you're coming out of your spawn, because by the time they respawn, you haven't even cleared the half court really to get back and start that offense.
Pacheco really went all out to try and get that fight started, and he got one, but it costed him. Hekate wasn't long after that. Both damage dealers down. That will slow it down for Virtus.Pro. Not quite as close as they were last time at this timer.
Man in the high tower
That's
right
right.
now. This is the spawn door. This is what I was talking about with Chronix. So he's completely free. This might be his favorite spot to play from. In the spawn door, completely immune to all damage and projectiles coming in. He pokes out, can do damage for free. It's it really is ideal at the end of the day. I mean, Victor could not ask for anything else.
Rhino getting in their hands dirty. Red Spirit came out though from Kanga, and it didn't do a whole lot. In fact, Rhino and Evil Eye still the first two off the board. His is right. Looks like this could be a conversion from Virtus.Pro, and indeed it is. Ice Mines, they say it's hard to convert on, but Virtus.Pro nearly did it a couple times and finally able to shove it in and win game 4.
They find a way to get it done indeed. That comes back to just a lack of zone from Kanga. They never felt confident enough it's a risk, sure, but I think it's a worthwhile one. We saw it pay off very, very handily for Virtus.Pro. Every time they did it, it's a big part of Ice Mines. It's I would venture to say it almost defines the map, is how brutal that zone can be. And Kanga just never went for it, and it always came back to haunt them.
A couple times, though, that Dread Serpent comes out. I mean, everyone's kind of cooped up in that cabin up there.
Yeah.
We were mentioning where that Victor was standing. He can't really help you in that regard. I mean, just can't get the damage off. To follow up that Dread Serpent, 2-2 now. Virtus.Pro able to climb back, and he was up at 2 apiece rather after Game 4. Game 5 coming shortly, but first, we've got the Des to break it down.
Well, we got 4 total games, 2 wins apiece here, and this one, we were a little surprised. You know, we were coming back to the desk. We were sure that it was going to go to another mid-fight, but at the end of the day, this one comes up in Virtus.Pro's favor. That's an important answer back, though, the way, you know, they blow Kang out of the water Game 1, they then get blown out of the water Game 2, close one on Game 3. You know, you lose Game 4, things start to tilt in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I mean, definitely really nice to answer back. Going in 2-2, you don't think of it as like you're really down, unless you're barely winning your maps and getting slammed on yours. I'm sure they're not like they're feeling okay about it being 2-2. Chronic's absolutely pouring out the damage.
You know, he 1,000 more than Fasheko in this case, but the Victor, and was it really? It was, I guess not. It wasn't even so much the Victor that didn't have the impact. Evil Eye had a tough game. Hecate really came through in this one. Last time around, it was Fasheko, who was still 14-4, but Hecate was there with a little supplemental damage. This time around, honestly, just maybe too much offensive presence for Kanga to deal with.
I think they're just the ability for them to transition that I thought was going to be a problem, but I guess they just were just able to overwhelm the Ashe. The Ashe wasn't ready to play defensively. Like the way that Rubu does when Envy plays this style of draft is kind of unique.
Sure.
And I don't, maybe just something that Rhino wasn't able to keep up with, wasn't able to know the rotations and playing Ashe that defensively. And, you know, the better poke composition just won in the end.
Well, it's absolutely interesting to see. I shouldn't say absolutely. We kind of get one of 2 Ice Mines where it's, 4-0, one team just, they're done, they're not hanging. Or a game that goes 4-3 and goes the link. This one almost seems like an outlier where it doesn't go 4-3, it doesn't go 4-0. 4-2 just seems sort of interesting in there in the middle. And there was a lot of good defensive stands. A lot of the barrages were so good from Chronix this game, triple kills, all that, and Virtus.Pro were just able to weather that storm.
Well, yeah, you could see why the conversion happened there.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a perfectly executed push where that quick little rotation from the top
right
over to be able to go through that window, immediately presenting that big game burst damage threat. It really caught them off guard. They were not ready, and Rhino took so much damage he couldn't even land his assert dominance.
That's been something. Have you sort of identified, because Rhino on his side, I mean, he fills that kind of space-making, aggressive frontliner. Dosips and Pule on the opposite side. Joel's. You look at the frontliners in this matchup. Have you seen any of them that have really just been getting the better of one another the entire time?
For this set so far?
Yeah.
No specific matchups that have stood out to me. I think Rhino has not performed so far this set to the level I would normally expect of him. I think since coming to Atlanta, he went from a player that I don't think a lot of people were really looking out for.
That's true.
Not that he underperformed at the PWC, but no one was like, oh, Rhino's going to be a really, really strong top off tank. And I think he absolutely has grown so much. And I don't think so far this set he's performed at the level we'd expect.
That's true. It's like when you have the expectation of the world, anything else is going to seem, a little bit less than that. But you're right. I think you put him on like an Atlas, and it's the same. Honestly, it's like almost the same as like G Bunny on the Knights, where it's like they're kind of, they're not like the names that immediately jump out. This guy's going to pop off and carry this game, but like throw him on an Atlas, throw him on a Khan, Ashe, whatever it is, they can create so much space, create offensive power that can kind of steamroll for your team. And that's something maybe moving through this set I hope to see a little bit more of. I think I agree with you where it's not that Rhino is playing bad, but I haven't seen the same kind of overwhelming frontline aggression maybe that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, hopefully if they can find an Atlas, that is actually a champ that Rhino I would consider one of the best really quickly.
Yeah.
He picked up that champion
He did.
so fast.
That's right.
Kanga were really comfortable on it, and it showed in their last set with VP, where VP really didn't know what to do against the Atlas. It was something they hadn't seen too much before. It was still very fresh. And they just absolutely, I think, dominated them that set the last time.
Right.
And,
No, it did seem that way.
VP's firing back very well in comparison to the last time.
And for some reason, when we bring up Atlas, it kind of makes me think about Amani, because obviously they came out around the same time. You know, Atlas has been tried and true across the board.
Thinking about Amani.
What happened to Amani? Where is she?
Permafrost nerf. Permafrost nerf
guess that's true.
to Amani.
Yeah.
People also just kind of figuring out how to deal with it. You know, not being used to Frostbomb, not being used to that pokey kind of cleave. They just were not. People were not ready for it to come out. And the nerf to the base speed, which means you have to have the speed card in, and it's less of a benefit. It really, really chunked her out of the meta. People also figured out how to deal with the dragon. Which
is interesting considering, I should say, how wide of a meta we've kind of seen over these last couple of games. We're trying to do the math, and I feel like we're pretty close, especially with like Lex coming through and Moji. I think we got to be pretty close to 100% of the champions at least being played once at some point throughout this split. I'm trying to think of who we maybe haven't seen.
The closest, I mean, I'm thinking maybe, have we seen Willow yet? I think once, right?
I think
Dredge?
Willow.
No, we saw Dredge.
Dredge is a...
Production said Dredge, but Dredge got played by Na'Vi, also on Frog Isle.
That's right. Well, either way, it seems, would you say the meta's at a healthy spot? Maybe that's not the right word. There's a lot of variety, though, in the meta.
I think there's a lot of variety. I think that the things that are very strong in the meta could definitely be tuned down. Some of the things being tuned down, you know, in the Sun and Moon patch coming up. But hopefully, I think the thing that needs to be looked at the most are things that have no counter, which would be like damage reduction and damage amplification. You know, because only one thing counters the other. So you know, if they have one, you have to get the other or get even more of that one thing.
Right.
You know, it really kind of limits. You can play a lot of different champions, but without that baseline in your composition, you kind of are limited in what you can do.
I'm very excited for that next patch to come out, because there's so many changes to different champions. You know, Pip's getting Moxie nerf a little bit. Lex going back to a more traditional style gun. Andro as well.
I'm actually kind of scared of the next
There's so much
honestly.
fun stuff that's coming out, and I think, right in time for split number 2 it should be, and it's going to be, I think, a lot of fun to see sort of maybe how the meta changes and what, honestly, you look at it from a competitive PPL level.
Yeah.
What teams are able to adapt to that, because that's a lot of it. You see these weeks right after patches where the adaptation, the immediate follow-up to some of these patches is ever so important. You see it on a micro level throughout a set. You see it on a macro level when a big patch comes out. Ice Mines immediately followed up by Frozen Guard, sticking with the snowy maps.
Very nice and cold. Well, they don't want to warm up quite yet.
That's right.
They want to stay ready. You know, they're already prepped for the temperature.
In Georgia, you need constant cold.
Oh, a constant AC. Every time I go outside, look at me. I'm not built for outside. Come on, guys.
No.
We all know. Oh, thanks for switching this. Yeah, just look at me, man. I'm not ready for it.
The moment I step outside, I don't get tan. I get just straight red. I go immediately to red.
Like a tomato slowly ripening.
That's right. That's right.
Head towards that.
I start at green
direction.
and I turn to red. That's absolutely the case. Frozen Guard comes out. We saw Strix from Tenor earlier in the set. Not so much with Strix, but just snipers in general. Was there some merit to that pick?
I think that was specifically a pocket pick.
Yeah.
For Tenor, for the Torvald. That's how I view it. That it was such a quintessentially nip draft going into that game. That's what I said in the green room, actually.
Right.
When someone walked in and they asked, what do you think about this? I said that these are two teams, like that Na'Vi game, that was they both had their comfort draft going in.
Sure.
And who won that would decide the game. And, as we know, Nip won that. But this is neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. Right.
Going back into this one. Leon actually being banned out. This was something that some teams would do to target VP early in the season before Hecate got a little more comfortable on Cassie. Interesting to see it coming back out after he had such a strong performance on Cassie.
And that's sort of been that. I would throw my hat into the ring of saying I feel like Torvald, Makoa, Atlas have been banned out close to 100% of the games, and then there's that fourth kind of flex ban that you see. Sometimes it's Eevee, it's been Tyra, it's been Leon this time around. Is that just Hecate, do not touch the Leon, we don't want to deal with it on this map?
Here's what it is, right? I think that's what it is more. Dealing with Hecate, getting rid of that comfort pick. Also, Leon, I think, is just really, really strong. One thing that people don't really talk about when it comes to the backlines, the strong backlines right now, the Cassie, Leon, Shaw, now Tyra, Vivian coming into the mix. Leon has one of the most flexibility in her movement, plus still having strong caught spread. Caught spread is something people kind of don't think about much anymore.
Yeah.
But if you draft a comp that's like Shaw Pip or like Shaw Maeve or Shaw Eevee, where's your Cauterize? I mean, like, you
That's
have
true.
it, but it's so inconsistent.
Right.
So Leon gives you that very consistent Cauterize, plus that almost sniper-esque burst damage with Eminence from across the map.
Yeah, I think across the board, reasons you just stated, reasons I had mentioned, I think it's a very good ban coming out here from Kanga. And they're able to get Khan on their side. You know, you ban out the Leon and Virtus.Pro take the Inara. Do you have to go Ashe now if you're Kanga?
You don't have to. You could still go Barrack if you want to have a point tank to contest. And it might be pretty solid. They have the Tyra, so they could go the Ashe and have like the aggressive, have the Damba to supplement the sustain. Barrack comes
I
in for the
imagine
point
this
tank.
means that Virtus.Pro they go the Ashe route at this point. I guess.
Yeah,
I think the viability of these remaining 4 frontliners, if Ashe comes through, that probably opens up a team like Kanga, especially if you're going to be first pick to ban something else out, because at the end of the day you're going to get either Khan or Ashe as well as either Barrack or Inara. So while the ones who are banned out are so strong, it feels like you can put a little less emphasis, maybe depending on what you want to do, on which of those 4 you end up snagging, because at the end of the day
You're gonna get something good.
you're going to get something good.
Yeah, that's why first pick has that flex bit.
Right.
That's why right now it's getting so set in stone.
You need help.
Like second pick,
Don't hesitate to
there's
ask.
more counterplay I think against Khan than Koa Atlas.
Let's fight.
Koa
Right.
has such a good get out of jail free card. I actually like the Ying pick. I
Yeah.
think maybe they're avoiding Damba because they already have a lot of crowd control.
Right.
They have the Inara Seismic Crash. They have the EV Ice Storm.
That's
they
just a
have the Assert Dominance.
free resilience.
Yeah, exactly. But now with Ying, maybe some people want to get Bulldozer.
Right.
They probably don't. But Cauterize, they have to rush Cauterize instead of worrying about resilience, giving their ultimates a little bit more value later into the game.
Right. And the Ashe pick as well does come through. Vex, of course, very comfortable on the Ying, very comfortable on any of the supports that we get to see played. Has Genos been picked at all in this set?
I have the drafts here.
I don't
believe
I don't
so.
think he has.
I think these teams are going to prefer Furia because of
Yeah.
the sustain. If you can get Tyra and Damba, you're basically doing the same thing with more sustain.
We mentioned this before in some of the earlier games when we were up here, but the shifting sort of support meta, like the micro meta of supports, it's been changing so much. Grover was so strong, and he was honestly banned out so much of the time at the beginning of the split. Now, he's available to be played, doesn't get picked up as much. Furia here though, and Flame so strong. You hit those heals on a consistent basis, you're going to be topping off everyone. And the Charlotte.
Yeah, Shaw didn't see
Another
as much
Victor.
play. Another Victor. This one for Hikate.
Yeah.
Yeah, a comfort pick, I think. And they really, again, like, Victor's really strong when they don't have a way to get onto him. They were able to just be close enough to get onto him, even without that, like, great map crossing ability on Ice Mines. This map's a lot wider.
Right.
Victor can put a lot more distance, and looking there, I mean, unless the Shaw gets a really good stun or the Khan gets an overpower, he can absolutely keep his distance.
Why do you think Victor instead of Vivian is what we've seen?
I think it just does more damage at range with burst mode. I think would be the reason.
Sure. Well, we're tied up at 2. We got maybe 3 games left. Definitely 3 games left if one of these 2 teams, they split these games. We're going to send it down to your casters. Nick Pretty Hair Keo and the man who beat Dr. Disrespect in the 1995 Blockbuster Video Game Championship, Ryan Aggro Bailey.
I'm the best to ever do it! Excuse me. Game 5.
And Doc knows it.
Getting started.
There's a reason he doesn't talk about that year.
I had to put him in his place. Back to back, he'd had a good run, but it was time to end it. Just like it's time to get this one started. Another jam coming in. Can I get this playlist, by the way?
Wait, you love it, man. We love it.
Yeah, we want to apply those.
You want to apply changes before you leave. That's always a good thing to do, or else you've wasted your time, right?
That's right.
It's the worst feeling. You go in, you rebind a ton of stuff, you get it just the way you want it, and you forget to apply changes before leaving. Hopefully, Kanga can apply some of the changes before they leave spawn that they need to make this time around, which is remembering to zone, because zoning on Frozen Guard is pretty much just as important of a conversation that it was on Ice Mines.
Yeah, and at this point, I think if you're VP, you're kind of happy to see you come to Frozen Guard because of the lack of zone that you saw from Kanga last time around. So with the extended break before Game 5, maybe that was enough time to get it rolling in Kanga's favor. Evil Eye doing what he can. First time he hasn't been on a blaster, I believe, in this set. We'll see how he's able to get it rolling. It's a good start. First blood for him onto the Ashe. and he's looking like he's going to have a good game already.
Great stun there from Fury to open that one up from Garrett. It's a long range. It's basically like a raw one, if you want to think about it in a smite term, but landing that skill shot stun is something Fury and Damba bring to the table. You never expect it, but when you get it, oh, it feels so good.
Dosups falls down. Virtus.Pro did get 51% with those early point caps, as we've been highlighting, but Kanga this time able to get them off of it. But the zone, again, not particularly deep. A lot of times you'll see teams go even underneath the underpass there, but because that fight was a little bit more staggered, it was hard to get it in that manner. Right back towards the point. No, says Evil Eye. Overtime begins as Pacheco was able to get it rolling, but I don't think that Inara is going to be able to get in. She is not. Kanga gets the first point, and now Dosups is in a bad spot. Joel's immediately sends him back towards the base. Chronic will do the same to Hulu Ele, and just like that, we're right back to Kanga on the push.
We're getting to see a lot of things here that I think are going to accentuate what we've been talking about with Shaolin and the anti-flanks that have had to just rise to meet and match Eevee. Eevee has really come to her own this split and become something that every single team needs to be able to play and be impactful with. So things like Shaolin, things like the Tyra mark have had to come out of the woodwork to answer her.
Pacheco is able to take down that Tyra. Chronic's piloting this time around a similar play style at times to that of Victor, but just a little bit closer range. Puts him in a bad spot right away. Hecate takes down Evil Eye. Rhino down to the hand of Vex, but Gara, nice turnaround onto Pacheco, though does eventually fall to Hecate anyways, and here is the zone that we were talking about.
You know, Fury Hit does good damage, and if you happen to catch all 3 projectiles from the Wings of Wrath, to throw another 600 on top of all that she already does, you know, Eevee can honestly, you know, get ahead of herself and really be surprised, I think, by the amount of burst that this support can put out. It can be very, very potent. You got to pay attention to that little meter above the left side of Gara's UI as well. As that fills up, and it's almost impossible not to keep maintained at maximum capacity, but that's just an attack speed scaling thing. The more that is in that, I think it's called Wrath is the resource, the more attack speed he will gain as he manages to maintain it, and you generate it by just being effective, healing your teammates. That's all you need to do.
They won't have him for at least a minute. He's on the respawn, and we'll take him a moment to get here. Could be a good opportunity to engage for Virtus.Pro, but Vex down.
What the hell was that?
Pretty quickly there. It's a double kill for Rhino as he turns around and takes care of the Ashe. Now turns his attention towards the Inara. It's a triple kill for Rhino. And just like that, Kanga are keeping the push going. 25 seconds to go on this push. Overpower still available for Rhino if he wants it. Hecate trying to get in some pot shots. They're getting a little bit too close for comfort already. 15 seconds left on this push. Barrage is available, but Kanga don't want to have to expend ults to defend.
So much damage. We've seen how potent Victor can be when you leave him just a free fire. Chronic's got to do a hell of a lot of that back on Ice Mines, but he's back to home base. I think Tyra is where he's most comfortable. Firebomb goes out, actually connects with Uleuli's cheeks as he kind of falls down in front of him. It's a close race to the finish here, but Kanga are in the driver's seat.
They certainly are. Down goes that Ashe once more. Joel's able to get that one. Still doing what he can. He's got Dome Shield if he needs it, but losing Evil Eye is not a great start. Hecate is able to put his team in a good position. It's a double kill for him. Great positioning from him right over top of this payload, and a great defense from Virtus.Pro, but boy, was it close.
You know, you got to give him a lot of credit there. He started over just above to Joel's right. So he makes a rather lengthy rotation to get that angle that we saw him finish the round out. And, you know, Victor has no mobility. He just has to hoof it every single place that he wants to be. So he takes a risk in that his finger's not on the trigger for a good, you know, 5 to 8 seconds in that fight. He's giving Kanga an essential 4v5 to fight into, but that ends up paying off for him as he does get a great angle to rip the rest of that team fight apart.
Evil Eye was a great part of this beginning area right there, knocking down Pacheco right as overtime began, but losing him early to the hand of Hecate, I think, was a definite problem for Kanga that time around. It looks like Hecate went into Wrecker 2 right away to try and handle these shields coming from both the Khan and the Barrack.
Wow.
Really not working.
Master riding as well, just to, I don't know, get an early angle. He's a backliner. It's not super important that he gets super far out into the battlefield, but maybe if he gets dove early on, he wants to get back to the fight quicker. I don't know.
Great positioning now from Evil Eye during this ultimate, just sneaking around and able to get the job done. Body blocks there, but not good enough to save Vex's life. Because Chronix came around the other side. It's a double kill for him. Looking for a third as he just chews through Doseps. That Tyra ultimate certainly does that very, very well. A triple now
Look at his smile.
for Chronix. How could you not be
In the
smiling
wise
after
words
a
of
play
Joe
like
Weber,
that?
look how happy he is.
Look at how happy they are, regardless of who they should be rooting for. That's always a point of contention with us. That's okay. Kanga doing a better job zoning this time. It feels like Virtus.Pro trying to run through the mud to try and get back towards this point. They've already got 60% on it, but 87 and climbing as Evil Eye is putting in pot shots. Gera off to a good angle, tosses out a heal. He's now going to try and turn and save the shot lane. Another heal comes out, planted,
Nice
gets the
heal.
job done. Down goes the Ashe. Evil Eye still standing as overtime ticks down. Hekate's able to grab one for himself, but Virtus.Pro still on the back foot.
1 for 1, 2 for 1. This one could turn into a 3 for 1 if Fish is not careful. Evil Eye's full draw already clips the last shot of the Planet as Fish tries to turn the corner. It's a double, it could be a triple, but Chronix steals it away. Nice way for the dust to settle in favor of Kanga.
8 streak right now for Evil Eye. This Shaolin has been impressive around these midpoint fights. I mean, it can be difficult, I feel like, to navigate, especially with an Eevee on the other side, with a Victor who's putting out really good long-range damage to put yourself in position to succeed, but 8-3 and 11 for Evil Eye, he's certainly done it so far.
And part of what makes these damage amp comps with Tyra so effective is that it doesn't really fall off. Yes, you can buy Haven and Blast Shields and things like that, but it's just not effective. It doesn't really slow it down too much. Very rarely do we see people get to the point where they're invested all the way into a level 3 defensive items. Those are usually seen as more of a luxury thing than a necessity.
Doseps able to find 2 of his own now as Fisheko was able to knock down Chronix as well. Virtus.Pro on the resurgence. Barrick tried to go out on his own terms, but Hekate prevents that. Now the zone begins. Minute 20 left on this push or so, and Kanga got it about halfway there, but have now hit the wall.
While they hit the wall, we'll take a look at some of the items that are starting to be built here. There's a lot of ults ready to go and things like that, but most of these fights aren't going to mean too much in the grand scheme of the round. You're looking up at the core items being finished in the offensive category for Kanga Esports as they hit the gas pedal, inflame, movement speed, damage for all.
Now that Evil Eye ultimate as well. Eevee trying to bide her time. See ya! As soon as she comes out of there, Evil Eye puts her down, and then a good stun sets up Joel's to bring down the Ashe at the same time. Evil Eye receives a heal right at the right moment because he was in some trouble, but now it's Vex who's on the receiving end. Evil Eye still standing 185 health. Finally, Doseps able to get him down, but already did the damage. Evil Eye again on the Shaolin man has been a nightmare to deal with.
And the front lines for Kanga are kind of cutting their losses, and they know they're going to lose Evil Eye, but they just move towards the payload to start getting some distance covered here. I think they'll be able to be safe. Gera is within range to be able to heal them up. They want to try and get this payload pushed up under the underpass and ready to make its final approach before they really hard commit. It's okay that they lose Evil Eyes there. They have a couple of impactful ultimates. Dome Shield and Overpower is what's going to get them through if they want.
5 seconds remaining now on this push, at least before the overtime begins. And Flame up to 70%. Should climb pretty quickly with Gera's effectiveness right here as overtime begins to tick down. This Barrick getting low, and Hekate blows him up right on time. Immediately, Kanga have to start backing it up. Doing what he can to get in there is Rhino, but it's still not enough. Doseps able to get him. Virtus.Pro with another successful defense.
It's just it's a byproduct of this composition. It's a classic choke point. They run in, they have no flank, no dive, no way to get up over this castle wall, really, and Hekate just sits there and he shoots for free. Similar to how Chronix did on Ice Mine, so having to kind of get a taste of their own medicine now against this Victor. I like the way these two are matching up, though. It's fun to see finally these real classic just shooter AR champions get their time in the sun like Victor and Tyra.
They're doing it, man. I mean, especially when you can output damage like that. Goodness. See you later. Easy triple right there for Chronix. Certainly getting it done in the damage department right there with Evil Eye. But how about Joel's on this Barrick, man? He's keeping pace with these damage dealers.
Yeah, yes, sir. I mean, Barrick scales very, very well. It's one of the higher and more consistent damages that the frontline weapons can do. We call him Fat Cassie for a reason. He can connect with some pretty chunky shots, scales very well, looks after himself, very self-sustaining in terms of the shielding he provides himself, and that's why he's such a solid pick.
Sheko in some trouble, but it's Evil Eye who gets flattened by Hekate's ultimate barrage from across the way. Gets the job done for Virtus.Pro's DPS player. 42% already on the point for Kanga. They're taking a page out of VP's book, getting some of those early points. But this Barrack starts to get to work. Blue in a little bit of trouble here. This Ashe kind of backed into a corner. Was able to get the job done anyways on a Chronix. Gets the kill onto the enemy support, or the enemy DPS rather. Gera still standing at least for the moment as Dosif trying to chase down this Shaolin. Planted in the wrong spot, but is able to escape into stealth before Hekate tracks him down with a stray bullet. 69% now for Virtus.Pro, but it's Kanga whose points are ticking up. It's Joel's on the point now. No dome shield for him. In comes Dosif trying to displace him from the point. Rhino doing what he can, and that will be pretty good as Hulu does fall to the hand of this Khan. Rhino standing tall here up on the high ground.
Well, what's so scary about this, if you're a Virtus.Pro fan, is that Evil Eye has had exactly 0 uptime on the boss that is Virtus.Pro, and they still win it somehow. And it wasn't because Virtus.Pro was placing an inordinate amount of pressure on this Shaolin. It was, if anything, just a lack of awareness of Evil Eye. He got snuck up on by a Nara, for crying out loud. I mean, that's on you, buddy.
Coming right behind him, but ends up working out for the boys of Kanga anyways, trying to answer back. It's been one team wins, other team answers. One team wins, other team answers. Kanga trying to put the ball in Virtus.Pro's court to keep the set going if they can convert on this payload push. Overpower's ready here for Rhino should he want it, but doesn't need it right there. Just picks up the Ashe and tosses her to the side. Evil Eye able to assist in that regard. He still has that Heat Haze ready to go. Gera keeping his team topped off. Beam should be up right about now, but it's not in time to save Joel's. He goes down to the hand of Hekate. Virtus.Pro using this overpass to try and knock out Kanga.
1:30 left on the clock. Fire Strike goes out. Not really to any avail. Kanga Esports trying to break one of the tougher chokes for them is have any way to sort of dive, but they have a decent mid-range comp to, I think, chew through some of these tanks, and that's really what Hunting Party does is, you know, way earlier in the game, we saw that kill on a Vex that we kind of just scratched our heads at, and part of it is that, again, it throws off your internal, like, time to kill clock of, like, how long you know you can survive against certain matchups, and then you just get blown up, and it's like, wow, that's not really how that's gone for me in the past.
What happened right there? All the damage basically gone all of a sudden. Eevee, Victor, Ashe, Ying, all wiped off the face of the map. Virtus.Pro get completely decimated on that overpass, and the Kanga has a great opportunity. Evil Eye deep into the enemy base, gonna use that withdraw, try and get back towards his team, and Rhino right there to escort the man out of the base. And here comes the ultimate, trying to keep it rolling for Evil Eye, but Hulu's really not the one he wants to be hitting right there. Gonna have to try and back it up. Rhino gets Dosup's. Finally, Evil Eye goes down. Fasheko's able to track him down. As Rhino way into the back line. Some pot shots into the back of Fasheko's head. See ya! Right before he hits the ground, Ashe doesn't get the assert dominance off. And Kanga gonna push in and take the Game 5 victory.
Wow, wow, wow. What a fight from Kanga. Again, funnily enough, it's kind of the same story as the point fight. Evil Eye he literally gets ice stormed and he starts to panic. You can physically see it in his crosshair movement. Super funny the way that ends up playing out is that a lot of that focus placed on Evil Eye, but Kanga did a really good job getting it done without him. Hekate was under pressure the whole time, sort of preoccupied with this Shaolin just long enough. And of course, you have those little split-second hairline details in the Ashe not quite landing, not quite hitting the ground. That would have been a big turnaround ult for VP.
Absolutely. That's so much time that gets bought there for VP. But unfortunately for them, it doesn't end up going their way. I also love the way that Kanga kind of occupies a space that Hekate normally was. Rhino just kind of goes around the bowl and ends up really flanking and doing a pretty effective job right there. As I mentioned, one team wins, the other team answers. Now it's in VP's court to see if they can answer. Throw it to the desk and see what they think.
Well, VP, they need to continue that trend because back's against the wall. Kanga could win one more and wrap up this split with a win for the Paladins on the Kanga side of things. And that was a convincing win. Yet again, it seems like one team just can't get a foothold in this set. The Victor this time around, I think Victor's on a 2-loss streak. I don't know. He's been coming out in so many of these games, and he's kind of been – and actually, this is an interesting point. I think this is why you pick Victor, because whether you're winning or losing, he's going to do 100,000+ damage in these games.
But his confirmations aren't really that huge unless it's something like throwing a grenade around a corner. That's really the only way he can confirm kill some people that are running away. I mean, they had the flanker to do it, but I mean, it's just so hard to execute when you're getting, for the Eevee to execute when she's getting damage marked on the way in and just getting absolutely annihilated. You can see the Victor, he's going to do 150,000 damage.
Yeah.
No matter what. I mean, he's going to, that's just his job. He is a damage hose. You go to your house, you turn on the faucet, you water the enemy team, they all get hurt, but someone has to harvest them.
That's right, and there was no one to be harvested this time around for Kanga. I mean, he harvested them all himself. He sowed the seeds, he watered them, he picked them all on his own. 7 and 11 for Fasheko, 8 and 11 for Dosups. Dosups actually had some pretty good plays. This guy we were talking about just prior to this game in that little 5-minute break that we had between games, we were looking for him to kind of step forward. And while, you know, you always look at Eva, you always look at Chronix, this game, I'm glad we're shining a spotlight on Rhino because this is more of the Rhino we're used to seeing. A dominant performance on a Khan and really controlling this game.
Yeah, showing really why Khan is getting used to get the respect it got in bans. Now it's the only one going through because you feel like you can counter it. You know, when you're talking about your draft as a team, you're saying, well, there's ways to avoid the Khan ult unless you walk into it like that. Like, you can predict the Khan ult, you can try to narwhal the Khan ult, like Doe tried to do there, but you just, when it comes to actual gameplay, you can't always execute and make everything perfect.
Right.
You know, you can't get it 100%, and when a good player like Rhino is piloting the Khan, it's just too much sometimes.
And I think this is important. If I'm remembering back to the standings, if Kanga win 4-2, they outright jump over Virtus.Pro. If they win 4-3, technically they're tied on map differential.
No, the Kanga are below, but they actually have a better map differential.
Oh, right.
Yes. So if Kanga win, they will overtake
regardless.
them, no matter what.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I think I had it reversed because I think they have a one better map differential,
but they're below
despite
them.
being below.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's where my head went. Kanga, they want to win to jump over Virtus.Pro. It's as simple as that. If they win, they take the next spot. Virtus.Pro are looking to avoid that, but now is the time you have to avoid that. Up against the wall, you need to win 2 straight. Teams have been going back and forth, but this is do or die for Virtus.Pro. They're still going to MSI. I don't mean to seem all doom and gloom about it, but whether you're going as the 5 seed or the 6 seed is what is up for grabs here in this case. That flex ban for the first pick is Tyra this time around. I think that's a good ban. Not only is she a good champion, but we talk about kind of these, you ban a good champion as well as somebody the enemy team is very good at. Chronix is very good at the Tyra.
She also provides she's the only DPS that provides like focus target damage boost. You know, and on a good team that's, you say, you know, Tyra Mark. I was literally about to say it in Portuguese, by the way. I was literally about to make like the
Portuguese.
Now I want to hear it.
It's
just Marcando. Like, I don't know. I was just about to. It's something like that.
Lessons with Kresnik. This is.
I was just about to say that. I think it's actually Marcado. I don't think there's an N there, but.
Got it.
When you cry for the mark, as soon as you call that someone's marked and the focus fire comes in, it's just so hard to deal with, and there's no resilience to remove the damage boost. You know, Haven Blast Shield only does so much, so removing that from the field is going to be really powerful.
It's definitely beneficial. Because more times than not, you're going to be going that Khan, so leaving Tyra open to maybe the second pick, depending on whatever the first pick is for the opposite side, is always smart. I think Grover actually is pretty good on this map if you look at the way a lot of teams choose to fight. Sort
it's
of
always
that side
each team
high
on one
ground.
side. Yeah, one team's on high ground, one team's on church. Sometimes they both meet in church, but either way, the teams are usually pretty clumped.
Sure.
And if you have someone on their own, it's usually going to be someone more self-sustaining. You know? Like your Barrack maybe will go to point while everyone else is fighting by church, Grover a little further back, just out of range. But Barrack has his healing station, his bowling ball.
Of course.
Or unless it's Poulet's build where he's running 40% speed.
We were so caught off guard. We're like, wait, why is he moving so fast?
Is that bowling ball too? What? That's so low.
Yeah, the 40% move speed is what he had, and that Barrack was zooming on Frog Isle. It's also worth pointing out that if you're fighting in the high ground side of the point fight with Grover, that little healing circle will extend upward in a big cylindrical circle there. So it's not only just a little pool on the ground. If you're up above him, as long as you're inside of that ring, you will be benefiting from the Grover healing as well. So if that's the route VP choose to go, still benefiting his team there.
Yes.
On that side as well.
Another thing is when you're pushing, also the chokes are so close to each other that you can heal everybody.
Right.
I mean, the bottom left, the teams call it fire. The top right, I don't think it has a name. People just say usually top top right or upper.
Top right.
The Grover can stand under one side or under the other, and usually they're just going to be on the edge of the radius with Verdant Expanse 5.
Well, Leon doesn't get banned this time, and also is not in the hands of Hecate. Instead, it's likely Chronix who's going to be piloting that one with Evil Eye on the Eevee. This is a good map for Eevee. It's a good player on the Eevee. And Chronix is good at Leon as well. I think Kanga have drafted themselves in a pretty good spot. Interestingly enough, leaving their healer up for the last pick, although with
choice.
Grover being taken out, no rush to get that. We can get our healer last time around. So if you're looking at Kanga, what maybe rounds out your lineup? Another Furia, perhaps? Damba?
It could be Furia. It could be Damba. It could be either. I'm thinking since they're lacking damage boost, it might be Furia.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to shine a light on the Leon pick that early.
Yeah.
Normally teams would just pick their healer there, right? Just say we'll flex our last, but they're saying it's a Kate. It's don't keep. We haven't.
We need to take it.
There's no, not even that, but just like we know that's what they want.
Right.
So just denying it from them and having that versatility on the map, especially since her ability to slide off the ledges gives her a lot of distance she can carry, gives her a lot of flexibility on how she pushes on this map. She's just really good, and they knew it was what VP wanted.
And that's something kind of unspoken about Leon. I mean, the consistent, good, hard-hitting damage, spread out cauterizes. She does have a little bit of mobility as well. She can be very slippery and hard to lock down. So adding that in is important. Hecate on Cassie, though, that's not that's not much worse or not much better for you if you're Kanga. Getting the Bomb King for your side as well for Fasheko. You're not going to find much respite there. This is going to be an interesting one because I think if you look purely at the damage dealers, you get 4 players who are very comfortable on the champions that they have.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even across the board, everyone's gotten pretty comfortable champions. I mean, Pule has looked, I think, better on Khan than some of the other off-tanks. Doe is a monster on all of them. I mean, everybody, I think, is in a pretty comfortable spot here, but every team I've said I like their draft has lost.
Yeah, right.
I feel like I don't want to curse anybody.
Is it an even draft, Chris?
Is it? Can they both lose?
Yes. We can remake the game.
We can remake the game. You're right. You're right. Oh, well, you know what?
Let's remake.
It's an even draft. I want another 8-game set.
There we go. Well, we got to do it. If we're going to get there, Virtus.Pro, they have to strike back right now. Kanga looked very, very good in our last game and really blowing Virtus.Pro out. Coming out of the break, they were 2-2. Now it's 3-2. Virtus.Pro, they need to strike back, but to see how it plays out, let's send it down to Nick Pretty Hair Keogh and the man who won his Oscar before Leonardo DiCaprio, Ryan Agro Bailey.
Yeah, Leo tried his best for a while, but you just got to be more consistent. I don't know, just not in enough big movies. No one really knew his name for a long time. It's a process, Leo.
Yeah.
He got there eventually. Proud of him as part of the Oscar-winning club, of course. Game 6 about to get underway. Virtus.Pro has done a good job of answering when Kanga has come knocking in terms of taking a big lead in this set. Now they have no more wiggle room. Heard Kresnik on the desk that didn't want to curse one way or the other, but which side do you like more of the drafts here?
I kind of like Kanga just a little bit more because I think making that decision, early on in the draft to steal away the Leon, in combination with, I don't know what it is, but I just have this good feeling about Rhino on Ashe specifically. It's these little, tiny details that are giving me the edge here for Kanga.
It's because Rhino's charge, and so does Ashe. That's kind of where
you're onto something.
You're getting that one for sure. Virtus.Pro has taken to the high ground here, whereas Kanga seems relegated to the church on the other side. Now that they start to come down, but Kanga, look at this, already 60% on the point. Joel's just been hand in pocket on the point this whole time. Virtus.Pro finally bump him off and get themselves a first blood. It's Evil Eye, the first to go out the door. Pule gets that one, but in a bit of trouble now. Still has some help coming from that Grover. Good healing coming in, and he'll need every little bit of it. Heal comes through from himself as well, and Pule right back into the fray.
Very decisive on making that call to be the man to dive. It's not an easy thing, and it's a risky play. Fasheko dives into the backline. Speaking of taking risks, Joel wins one on the objective. 1v1ing the point front lines now. That could actually decide which way this first payload goes.
84% for Kanga. Enlightenment comes through, but Chronix doesn't get a whole lot from it. Fasheko finds himself a double kill and will keep the fight going, looking for the Eevee. One more shot, but just in time is the blink for Kanga, but it doesn't matter. Virtus.Pro able to knock them off the point and get the capture.
Very nicely done there, Virtus.Pro. I believe they got the Whirlwind up and used that as well, so getting to your ultimates first, it almost locks you down 100% of the time. You can win that fight if you get to the ultimates first. But Ule, again, he does such a great job at making a very decisive call for a guy that doesn't really, you know, he's technically a sub for this roster, but a very, very long-term sub at this point. But not filling out a real in-game leader type of role to make a call like that is very, very good sign for just the confidence and the synergy between Virtus.Pro.
Looking good right now for Virtus.Pro. That Dread Serpent didn't do a whole lot on the side of Kanga. Minute 45 and already heading to the underpass right now underneath this little archway. It can be so difficult to break. Couple people on the high ground, couple people near the middle as Jules tries to juggle where everyone from Virtus.Pro is, putting some pot shots into Dosup's and of course Nakate alike. Overpower comes through, get on over here, and we'll see you later. Rhino out the door just like that. And now it's Evil Eye trying to get in there and cause some disruption, but just can't do quite enough. Jules puts himself in the corner to try and bury his head in the sand, but everyone knows exactly where he is. Joel's still low, but still up, at least for a little bit longer. Heals come through, and in fact, he's still standing. Beautiful job coming through for this Maldamba, Chronix, Evil Eye all getting involved, and Kanga start to shove it back.
It's early game Inara, Maldamba. It's the most survivable combination pretty much in the game, and they play it very, very well. Throwing up that wall, sometimes you just gotta back yourself into a corner. Now, it blocks line of sight, yes, but does not prevent you from contesting the payload, so that's why he sort of plays that angle, so he can keep himself safe in the same right. Inara is not the most lethal champion. She is really just a stoic presence to make sure you control a space for a longer period of time than your enemies do.
Kanga, 5 ults available. On the other side, Virtus.Pro have 3. 20 seconds away from overtime. Matter of if they want to commit to this. Bomb King goes down towards the lower end, but Hecate will be the first one out of this skirmish. Great pick there by Chronix to pull him out on the pick that he wanted. As you heard Kresnik saying on the desk, Rhino gets juggled around a little bit, but gives the Khan a taste of his own medicine, knocking him back towards the point. Overtime about to begin now as Vex has that whirlwind available if he wants it. Dosup's right there doing what he can, but it's a double kill for Chronix. 5 in a row for him. Still standing, make that a triple kill. Bartender, one more, as it looks like Kanga with a successful defense.
Don't really use much for it either. Granted, neither do Virtus.Pro, really. When it's all said and done, I think that's one of those critical moments to talk about. That's a long enough round, a good enough defense with enough kills for Kanga Esports that they're not going to be just blown away itemization-wise. Shutting down this Grover healing is a very important part. We've seen that be very effective on Bazaar earlier in this set. It's been a long, long day, a lot of games, a lot of different scenarios playing out. We're getting a very good sense of how these two teams match up.
Great job by VP, and it looks like Kanga, the last 2 games, has kind of taken a page out of their book with these early points that you just kind of rack up and get while you can, while Virtus.Pro is kind of getting set in their ways. It seems like the Inara is the one that's able to do that when it was on the other side for Dosup's. He was getting a lot of those early points. Now it's Joel's. Look at that, right onto the objective. It's going to start ticking up right away. Has that seismic crash available. Wall comes out. Dread Serpent there. Doesn't get a whole lot of purchase. Akate was tried to get isolated by it, but just good positioning by him kept him alive. And now it's VP who hopped on and got some garbage points. 27% for them now as Joel's realized it and gets back towards the point.
Kanga's just kind of like going through the motions right now with these ultimates. They're using them, but they're not really getting much for them. I guess that's what I asked for at the end of the day. Nice setup in the back line from Ash.
Good job by her. Sets up Chronix for that kill. Hello, what do we have here? It's a lone Khan, and Chronix gets the punish on him. A beautiful game so far from Chronix. 9 in a row for him. Nearly found his 10th.
Jeez.
He is just swinging right now on this Leon and is going to get towards that 10 streak once Dosage falls to the hand of Evil Eye.
Getting in a rhythm is such an important thing for Leon. Your kit flows so nicely, one ability after the other, and if you're playing the loadout right, you'll get those cooldowns reset. Ice Storm on the objective because Mr. Evil Eye knows where Virtus.Pro have to be.
Overtime already ticking down. Virtus.Pro trying to get on in touch, and they do. They'll extend it. Dosup's able to keep it rolling. Sounded like a King Bomb that came through. Indeed it did, but don't think it got a whole lot going for Virtus.Pro at this point. Overtime still going. This barrack been a real nightmare until Chronix has had enough of all this nonsense. Beautiful Dread Serpent that time, far better than what we saw earlier. And see you later, Virtus.Pro. That's a Kanga Esports cap.
I want KDs and the damage chart. I mean, this has been a bloody fight here on Stone Keep. So many kills going either way. A 14 streak burning for Chronix. He gets his ultimate charged up, rips through 2 front lines. I mean, he is just pumping it out. He's almost back to 100% charge. When you land the final blow with Enlightenment, you grab yourself a quick 50% recharge refunded back just for playing properly.
Kanga now halfway, just under 2 minutes to go on this push. Chronix backed into this chapel a little bit, but still a fine position for him to be in. Rhino a little bit isolated, but he's actually doing okay from this position. Seems that Virtus.Pro is grouped up pretty well up on this top end. If Evil Eye can get in there, might be able to cause some havoc. But also have to be worried about the damage output coming from Virtus.Pro. This Bomb King is just chunking down Rhino, who eventually has to give up that position.
1 minute and 30 now on the clock. One of the final corners being rounded, but the toughest part of Stone Keep still to be breached. Visheko up and off of the high ground. Great play by Rhino.
Beautifully done. He'll find himself a double kill as well. Not done with the enemy just yet. Get a charge forward. Chronix finds Dosif. Just able to get into the base. Goes Vex. But down goes the barrier. Very close. Kanga on the precipice, and they will convert on that push. And Nick, they only used what? Seismic Crash there was the only ultimate?
Yeah, and that's, we saw it on the last point. Didn't really do much for them. Rhino on Ashe. Something special. Something very special about this guy on this champion. Finding those angles, min-maxing his plays, his opportunities. And that would have been very painful had Visheko been allowed to roam free. Jumps over the con shield to get the angle on the king and punts him in the mouth off of Stone Keep to his death.
That was beautifully done. That certainly got it all set up for this Kanga Esports squad, who are now just one mid-cap away from sealing the deal and making sure that they will potentially go on as the 5th seed. They need to win 4-2,
yes,
right?
That, according to my calculations, if they win 4-2, they will be 1 map plus minus ahead of Virtus.Pro.
Must win then if they want that 5th seed. Kanga right to the point. They've got plenty of ultimates to go. Enlightenment charging quickly, but Gera gets taken out early on in this fight. Visheko putting in the shots from this top rope, and he's doing a great job with it with this Bomb King. Good damage again onto these damage dealers, keeping them at bay as Hecate, because of all this space created by the Bomb King, is just able to put in all the damage necessary onto everybody else. Virtus.Pro with a clean control of the point thus far.
No assert dominance either. Rhino likely to go down here, very staggered, but at the end of the day, he has made a lot of space. Both damage dealers for Virtus.Pro are super far away from the point and have allowed Kanga to come back in, but it is still 4v5.
Looks like Kanga, Virtus.Pro didn't have someone standing on the point there for a little bit. They were stuck at 89 for quite some time. 1 for 1. They go make that 2 for 1 in Virtus.Pro's favor as Dosif knocks down Chronix, who's been such a thorn in their side. Great start for them as overtime begins to tick down. Rhino already in some trouble once more, but Evil Eye finds Hecate before their frontliner goes down, but overtime begins to dwindle. Virtus.Pro have their chance to convert and tie us up at 3.
I don't normally call out missed shots a lot, but Chronix missed a decent amount of stuff there on that objective. Had his ultimate as well, so he had the opportunity. If he got rolling, that he really could have made, I think, something happen there. It was a long shot nonetheless. Gera got picked super early. I'm not really sure how, to be honest with you.
I think it was Visheko.
We flipped with Visheko right after he killed him. Given where Visheko was standing, that's a misposition from Gera. I don't know how you get picked from Fish all the way in the backline. Bomb King is not a great long-range champion.
Certainly did. No one tell Visheko that, because he doesn't know at this point, and that's the way he's making it look. Minute 50 to go. Virtus.Pro starting to get stalled out a little bit, but still have people on that payload. Evil Eye causing some havoc, as EVs tend to do, but already 2 members of Kanga down. Soon to be 3, and very close. Still 3, though, as Joel's does fall to the hand of Hecate. And now Virtus.Pro right on the edge, trying to convert right here. They've got 4 ultimates. Just matter if they want to expend them now and force a deciding mid-point fight. Down into the pit goes Rhino, and down he goes indeed. Virtus.Pro expend nothing in order to convert that payload, and it is going to be a deciding mid-fight.
That's what's so scary, and unfortunately for Rhino, he's at about 88% on his ultimate, right on the cusp, but not quite confident enough to where I think he can charge in with full expectations of him being able to actually grab that ultimate in time. That's going to be a very tough decision for him to make. Having assert dominance up as you dive into fights is something you really want to rely on.
So now it comes down to this. 5th seed on the line for Kanga Esports. And as you highlighted, I mean, this pick for Chronix, 11-5 now on this Leon, has been such a big part of when they look good, but that last point fight didn't go super well for him. We'll see if he can turn it around this time, as he does have that enlightenment ready to go. But yeah, really backed into a corner here behind the chapel. Kanga playing it patiently, but you know Virtus.Pro is going to get that garbage time while they can. They're already nearly at 30%.
Ooh, they do manage to grab Joel as well. There's nothing else to shoot at but Inara, and it's going to result in a kill.
Beautifully done. Dread Serpent comes out from Gera, who's again isolated and low in the corner. Rhino dead as well. Ice Storm could be big though. Hecate falls to the hand of Chronic, but Vex finds himself a double kill. Evil Eye keeping Kanga alive potentially with that kill onto Fasheko, but 78% and climbing still. Eevee's got to get in there and do what she can, but in a horrible spot, Dosubs falls, and Virtus.Pro right on the edge as we get close to overtime. Joel's gonna get here, Seismic Crash gets the stun, but that's about all it gets. Vex with another kill for the VP side. Overtime still coming down. Enlightenment doesn't do a whole lot for Kanga. They just seem to be throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks.
There's, you know, a great effort there from Kanga to at least get the ultimates off, so I can't leave too frustrated. But you allow Virtus.Pro to get all that map control. It's a risk. You know, you're calling it garbage time. That's a great way to put it. But when that garbage time turns into a real team fight victory, it's just tough to come back from. Yes, they used their ultimates, but at the end of the day, those were in less than ideal situations.
Man, Game 7 coming up, but Virtus.Pro have got to be feeling good regardless of the outcome now because they look locked for that 5th seed. Game 7 right on the other side of this death segment.
Well, if you like Game 7s, you're going to be thrilled because that's where we're headed, and it's an important Game 7. Whoever wins leaps over the other one for a seeding here at MSI, so it's very, very important. But lots of little like micro plays there towards the end just weren't going right for Chronix. You were pointing out a lot of them as that final team fight was unfolding. Maybe popping the wall too early, taking a little bit too much damage here and there. Just at the very end of it, that was a winnable game for Kanga and just came up short.
Yeah, I don't know. They backed off the point a little too early. They called it garbage time, but that garbage time is really important when it comes to stopping retakes, especially since I think Kanga's composition is so good at retaking, since they had the Eevee, they had the Ashe. Those are characters that, you know, Eevee, I'm sure you guys have seen all the top Eevees do it. You know, they blink up, they soar, they drop the soar and ice block in the air, so they just careen right onto the point. There's nothing you can do.
It's like a Kirby stone. Just
yeah, exactly. They have such strong retake potential, and that garbage time headed up.
It's absolutely more of just a turn of phrase in that there's not so much going on. He's just kind of sitting there garnering percentage on the point. But you're right, and that's something that like Na'Vi do so well. You'll see them. All right, Lazy, go stand on the point. Do a lot of damage. I mean, Lazy does more than just that, and he does it all very, very well. But that just shows you the first people to touch the point and be able to play from the point then. That puts the enemy team in an awkward spot. If you die and we're already 80% ahead, we're going to win. If we die, well, we're 80% ahead, so we have time to get back. Vex, though, this Grover's been kind of hit or miss throughout this set, but I think he made his impact here.
Yeah, I think Kanga might have made a mistake in not contesting them and keep a little bit more, because if you give Khan, the reason why Khan used to not be as like a first pick hyper high priority on this map was because of the high ground. I just had to stop to think about that Inara slow-mo ulting there.
I know.
I saw your face too.
I was listening, but also just watching.
because of the high ground differential, right? Khan can shield himself on even ground, but if you're above him shooting down, he can't block all the damage. So giving him that area and giving him that high ground that's harder to contest when he gets his overpower off, it was too much.
Yeah, and again, it's those little micro plays here and there, and you see the high like over the top kind of the up high view of the game, but then when it really comes down to it, it's little things like that.
Yeah.
That replay that we saw at the end, I mean, you're watching everything go down on the point. Vex is just tossing axes from the high ground. He gets a kill, he confirms a kill. Like little micro plays like that just end up changing so much. And this time it does come up in favor of Virtus.Pro, an important answer back because it was 3-2 in favor of Kanga. If they lose that one, they go out. We've gone back and forth the entire set. VP Kanga, VP Kanga, VP Kanga, now VP. I don't know, I probably said one too many. Either way, Fish Market, map 7. Evan likes to say this is where you go to lose.
I don't know. I think you can be confident on it.
You can.
Yeah, Kanga recently, I'm just looking at this historically, they actually didn't really pick too many wide maps.
Yeah.
Wide maps being like Fish, Frozen, Shattered until recently. And they, I don't know, I think if they're picking it now, they must be feeling confident on it. We'll see how it goes.
They have a couple Fish Market games in their back pocket throughout the split. I don't think Virtus.Pro have shown too much on this map either. But at the end of the day, I think when you're really getting down to these game 7s with 4 bans and already 6 maps on top of it, the 11th map in a pool of just so many, you're kind of just getting down to whatever
left,
you feel best on what's left. And this is an interesting map for sure. With the way that the point is, it's kind of a sunken point with the high ground all around it.
It makes cap time very difficult to get.
So the life is hard for a frontliner on this map.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I think this is my least favorite map in the game.
Sure.
I actually prefer Ice Mines and Timbermill to this map.
Why is that?
It's just really, I don't like the rotation. Like the rotation I like when you have the option to get point time. Otherwise, it's just endlessly rotating.
Right.
And that's what it ends up coming down to. And like, you can get, people can hide and do kind of like cheesy plays. I guess you could see someone's missing. I don't know. I just don't like the flow of the map personally.
Right.
And the last push is very. I think it's very degenerate.
That's entirely fair. Yeah, the last push. If you're pushing and you're able to get up over that hill,
yeah,
the defending team is just in so much trouble if you're able to rattle some kills on the back of that.
Dave, I have a good question. Have you played a casual yet? I mean, I know you've played some casuals. Have you played a casual yet on this map against a sniper that was just at the end of the docks?
No, not
and
so.
you're just
that
like,
specific
you're just
scenario.
like,
have I played
a casual on Fish Market? Yes.
Yes.
Of course. I'd hope.
Yes, I have. I absolutely have. Have I played against a long-range sniper holding down the dock? Not that jumps out to me right now.
See, and here's what happens. When they're on the other team, you're like, how is this guy hitting everything?
Right.
When on your team, you die, your team wipes, and then you just got to the kill cam, and there they are.
You know what's sad?
Just living their life.
Is I have played Kinessa on Fish Market numerous times.
Did you go to the docks? You
We'll
don't
leave that.
You don't need to answer that
one.
question. We can go back to the draft here. Even though tanks on this map, off tanks are usually more value, and you can see why. I mean, you can see that here. I mean, them getting picked pretty early. Khan going first pick, as always, for Kanga. I mean, overpower is going to be good no matter where, especially on this map where you can pretty much throw someone off the map from anywhere, unless you're in that little small, I think teams call it market, usually, the non-cliff side of the map, and VP responding with Barrack Ash. And I think that's a pretty okay comp for this map. Usually, I mean, you can like anchor your Barrack on the point, obviously, but if you want to wait, if you want to play like that meet them kind of thing, you can have the Barrack locking down one side while the Ash looks to poke the back line on the other side of the rotation.
And I think going back to the Tyra here as well for Kanga is good. Chronix very comfortable on that champion. You know, we talk about the benefits of the hunting party. Crossfire can melt through. Frontliners can melt through. Backliners, of course, but frontliners as well when everything's working in their favor. Just a good overall team booster in the same way that maybe a Genos is, but especially on a map that you sort of mentioned where cap time is so important. Having someone like the Tyra with her own damage as well as the hunting party marks can make everyone uncomfortable. It's pretty important. Genos would counteract a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It would at least give them their own little damage boost in response. That is a different Genos than I was expecting. But Kinessa is pretty powerful on this map when she's not on the docks.
The next time you see my banners,
now,
run.
Is she actually powerful when she's on the docks and you're just dissuading people from playing against you?
No. It's actually like, I mean, it's okay, but if you're on the docks, your rotation potential is really low.
That's true. Very limited.
I mean, if we're done memeing about the docks, like if you're over there, you can't really rotate, so they know exactly what angle you're watching, and they can play out of it. You want to be in more of like an unpredictable angle.
And these guys playing at the top of the world, of course, in this game, will be able to take advantage on something as linear as that would be. Kinessa Leon, so Virtus.Pro going for some of the mid to long range poke damage here. Furia is gonna, that's gonna exacerbate what you get with Hunting Party a little bit with the Inflame at least, and then Shaolin, that's worked out for them today as well.
Yeah, I mean, Shaw's just a really solid backline pick. I guess, I mean, they could play into a Cassie, but they know they're not going to go triple DPS because they don't have a healer. So now they know they can kind of safely run that Shaolin. It's pretty good at, I think it's just pretty solid into the Kinessa, trades a little bit better than the Cassie, potential to stun. And if you have a Hunter's Mark, inflamed, ulting Shaolin, you don't want to deal with that.
Right.
You really don't want to deal with that.
And I think you have to be careful on the Kanga side, though. We see when you put a Genos mark on a Kinesin, you can get a fully charged shot off.
Yeah,
You can basically
with a
one
steady
tap
aim
with
boost.
steady aim, everything. I mean, you can 1-2 burst a Shaolin, a Tyra. So I mean, they're gonna have to be very mindful, I think, of where they move. I know you hate doing this. Game 7, which draft do you like? I'm not saying which team do you like, which draft do you like?
I think I would rather have VP's draft.
All right, well, there you go. He says he would rather have VP's draft, but who's going to win? We don't know. To find out, let's send it down to your casters for one last time today. Nick Pretty Hair Keogh and my good friend and esteemed colleague, Ryan Agro Bailey.
Thank you very much, Dave and Kresnik. I mean, it all comes down to this for this set, but already I think VP pretty happy with their setup, guaranteed in that 5th seed selection. Looking like that, dancing around, nice and happy. No cares in the world here for VP.
What a way for the Smite Pro League and the Paladins Premier League to come to an end, man.
That's right.
Game 5, Game 7 on this Friday evening, guys. You're getting your money's worth here this week, that is for sure. It's been a great way to wind up and kind of head into the MSI.
Absolutely, a great cherry on top to phase 1 on both ends. On the Smite side, the Dignitas guys just got reverse swept and lost first seed.
Jinkies. Oh, they lost first seed because of that?
Yeah.
That's
They
wild.
needed to win that one to get first seed, so huge implications there. And as we mentioned, all the way down to the wire here on the Paladin side as well. Virtus.Pro with this Kinessa. Hekate, certainly one of the premier sniper players anywhere. So I'm always watching out for what he can do. But this Leon has been such a big part of a lot of teams' different success. We'll see how it can do fare this time around. 21% already for Virtus.Pro as they have gained that point control. That Barrack just kind of chilling, 42% now. Kanga really giving up a lot of this time.
Sure are, and are making her way in, throws up the wall just to be safe, just to buy time. Somebody's got to make a move somewhere, but both of these are relatively, double backline, low mobility compositions. Whatever's going to happen isn't going to happen that quickly.
Need some time to start rolling, and Chronix rolls over Hekate. Sniper down, and just like that, we hit the gas pedal. Chronix with a double kill and is going to keep on surging forward until Dosups puts him in his place. But it's Kanga with those first 2 kills onto the backliners that have control. 81% now for them, and climbing as Dosups has to try and get in there to force that overtime. Yoink's back, but Kanga already have the objective. They were going to start pushing already.
Great peel there. Unfortunately, Evil Eye does fall down. Vex is kind of just chewing away at people from a nice little angle he's gotten himself up on. But when it's all said and done, Kanga Esports, who managed to grab this first payload. A couple of ultimates available for them. Quick look at the items here. With that payload captured, I think, yeah, some of these level 2 offensive items on the people that actually died. So Rhino and Evil Eye able to get Wrecker 2, Caught 2. Caught 2 is a big power spike. That's where a lot of people leave Caught 2 for the majority of the game. And if Rhino feels it necessary that he needs like resilience, this game probably not, but he would divert at that point into other items.
Already at a great point in the build. Evil Eye trades out 1 for 1 up against Fasheko. Vex has to do some juking, use those moves that Genos has, of course, as 2 members of Kanga go down to the hands of Virtus.Pro. Already their push getting stalled out pretty nicely here. Hekate gonna relocate over to the other side, let Joel's go down to the hand of Fasheko instead. And Virtus.Pro now sealing off this entryway, trying to zone out what Kanga wants to get back to.
Well, they've got plenty of ultimates to do it, but there's so much long-range poke, and as soon as Zanara gets dismounted, you add, a minute onto her travel time back to the payload. She's just got to hoof it. Immunity frames on the wind-up for Inflame to make sure he doesn't take any of the damage from that Ash Dash.
Hekate nearly found the shot, but it's Evil Eye who finds him instead. 3 dead now on the side of Virtus.Pro. You heard Kresnik talk about it. You really don't want to deal with this inflamed, ulting Shaolin. It's exactly what we see at Evil Eye. Turns it up to 11 instantly with the damage onto Hekate, and that resumes the bowling ball for Kanga. And that's the one thing that I think this composition may potentially struggle with on VP, Nick. No blaster, hard to really stop a death ball that's running at you.
For sure. And once either of these comps kind of get rolling, that's really the story, is they don't have the mobility to get that clean disengage. They're just going to get rolled over and sort of crushed like a steamroller rolling over a tube of toothpaste.
15 seconds remaining.
That's a visual for you for sure. Appreciate that. You do have the Genos ultimate. Nice shot coming from Hekate, looking for the final blow onto Evil Eye, but he escapes with use of that withdraw. Joel's puts down the Ash. Kanga not willing to give up this push quite yet. Overtime begins. Joel's finds himself a double kill and could be looking for a little bit more. Barrick right in his sights. Rocket Boot shield not enough. Evil Eye still able to get it, but Hekate takes his head off from the spawn, and that could be an opening for Virtus.Pro, but Hekate still forced back. Overtime still ticking down as Kanga right on the edge now. Hulu goes down, but Fasheko finds Garrett at the same time. No more healing now for Kanga, but it won't matter because they end the round just like that. They cap it and convert on the push.
Nicely done there by Khan, making sure he keeps the foot on Hekate's throat. 1 kill answered back, but it's just not enough. Keeping pressure on once you get it. Like we've mentioned a couple times already, low mobility, so when you make sure that you get in the driver's seat, you don't want to relinquish control of these fights and making the paces as much as possible. It's going to be very important for either of these teams. Once they build lead, to hold on to it. This is a good start for Kanga. They need to finish, though.
Couple ultimates still up for them. Basically everybody's, except for Shaolin. On the other side, Virtus.Pro 5 for 5 on the ultimates, but man, I feel like Kanga has some pretty impactful ones here. Specifically that Inflame for Gera seems to be a real difference maker.
Absolutely. When you throw the damage amp in with the double marks from Hunting Party, extra movement speed from not only from Crossfire from Tyra, but the Inflame also giving some movement speed as well as from Heat Haze, there is a lot of go potential from Kanga Esports. And it's very easy. It doesn't require a lot of execution. You just hit the buttons and everybody gets a lot of passive stats.
That's the way you like to see it. No, just add water, basically, those types of ultimates. Shaolin in some trouble right now. Here comes Seismic Crash. Good stun on Hekate, but doesn't hit the people that he needed to. Joel still ends up falling after that use of that ultimate. Fasheko here has Enlightenment ready, used it. Doesn't get a whole lot of value from it. Rhino's able to take down Pulu. And kind of sloppy beginning here, but it ends up with Virtus.Pro 66% on the point.
Dome Shield burn by Barrick just to grab a couple of extra ticks on the objective. I wouldn't normally, sign off on that play, but given that comeback mechanic is enabled for VP, every tick is so valuable for them. So I think it's going to be worth it at the end of the day. Overpower almost ready to go. Crossfire's up as well as a 1-for-1 trade happens in the backline.
74% on that Overpower right now for Kanga. Hekate looking for the right angle. Gets a pot shot in. Difficult to find anything more than that. He's actually got to back it up as Rhino starts to chase him down. There's that Crossfire coming out, but everyone scatters right away. Chronix just creates a bunch of space, but that might be enough to get Kanga towards that overtime. They're ticking up to over 90% now as the in comes someone. That was Dosups. Or no, excuse me, that was the Ash that came in. Pulu just came screaming through their screen there, but eventually does fall to the hand of Gera. Vex doing what he can to keep this point going, juking around, but gets taken out by Evil Eye. Nice shot by him. Gera starts backing it up as Kanga again are able to cap the payload.
Honestly, again, surprising. A missed overpower in the backline from Rhino, but he still manages to stay alive for a rather long time. And tanking up 3 people by so much time. Crossfire gets nothing. Overpower gets nothing. It's just through sheer force of will and good zoning and space created by Rhino that I think Kanga are able to eke that one out.
Chronix gonna toss a grenade in there and force back the Barrick. Ule has not been able to get in there too much this game. Really great stun there from Evil Eye. Takes out Hekate instantly. Removes him from this defense for at least a couple moments. Kanga don't have their ults yet, but they're getting pretty close.
Yeah.
It might just try and end it
here
here. Up and over the wall they go. Assert dominance was attempted there, I believe, and looks like it's able to land. It doesn't get a whole lot, at least for the moment. Evil Eye still standing after a good heal from Gera. Rhino finds Dosups as well. Ule removed by Evil Eye, but a couple kills. Hekate gets 2. Crits coming through for him. A huge stand from the sniper to keep Virtus.Pro breathing.
Again, just kind of questioning, that's a good moment, I think, to go all in. You got plenty of time on the clock to get all the ultimates you're using now recharged for either the final conversion here or the next mid-fight. So as Hate Haze comes up, Inflame is still applied, why not just go for it, man?
Yeah.
Overpower was up as well in that fight. I really think if they went all in, got just a couple, and had a mediocre team fight with all of those buffs applied, they still would have won.
That buff comp really working for them on the points. May as well try and apply it here. Can't disagree with you. 45 seconds though, still got plenty of time. They want to try and convert. Gara's ultimate's ticking up pretty quickly. There's a Heat Haze though, not holding back any longer. Evil Eye wants to keep on surging forward. Vasheko's able to skirt out a range of a couple of them. Good shot though, long range on a Hecate as he plants, tries to find the shots. One out of the however many shots are implanted. All I know is he only hit one, finally hits another, and takes down Dosups. Joel's on the point trying to convert. Kanga trying to stomp him out.
Okay.
And they're going to get the 4-0 and close out the victory over Virtus.Pro.
Well, it's not the 5th seed, but I think Kanga are probably happy to grab the win there today. As we smooth jazz our way out of the building here. It was a long road, but the MSI is left in front of us. That completes phase 1. The chips have fallen where they may. The seedings are locked, and I'm very excited for this event.
Man, I'm telling you, the soundtrack over here on Paladins game, can't beat it. This is what I'm talking about, baby. A smooth ending to phase 1. Beautiful stuff.
Thank Tyler for
by
this one.
Kanga. Yeah, T, as always, on the DJ track. Always a great playlist from T, but a really fun set. All the way goes to Game 7, and we close it out with some fun music, as always. That does it for us here on the casting booth. It was a lot of fun doing some Paladins. We got to throw it over to the one true love of my life, Dave Olson.
And I'm going to catch that, and I'm going to put it right here every time. Smooth jazz, smooth sailing for Kanga to round out the day. How am I supposed to... I can barely
Let's just
focus.
dance to that.
Yeah, no, just dance up here. It was smooth sailing in that last game for Kanga. Thank you, production. I appreciate you. This would be good to close the show. Not just dance up yet, though. And, all right, we'll see you guys next time. No, with the first split of the PPL for the 2019 season now is wrapped up, done and dusted. And Kanga will be happy that their last showing was a win. Virtus.Pro just cannot get over that 4-3, that Game 7 hump, seemingly.
Other than against us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
you guys took it to them last time. This time it's Kanga, top to bottom. They go Chronix. This game was so fast that, 66,000 damage, 77 for Vasheko. Actually, they did more damage on the Virtus.Pro side.
Just the sustain carried them through, honestly. In Arakan, it's a tank composition that I know Na'Vi in the past have liked.
Right.
And it's tank composition that really kind of plays itself into a sustain-y kind of play style. They just were able to deny the aggression from the tanks. You can see Pule
Lots of
going
Havens
0
as well.
and 10. Yeah, I mean, well, you gotta, right?
You have to.
They have double direct. The only
Right.
AoE on their team was Vex's ult and Pule's auto attacks.
I guess yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at it normally from a what are their two damage dealers playing, but when literally the entire team is direct damage, Haven becomes a much more valuable item. We talked about Rhino a couple games ago. Joel's is that guy as well, and it seems that Inara is just that champion when you look at it. Dosups on Frozen Guard had a couple double kills. That Inara damage can sneak up on you every once in a while.
It's a lot. It really is. It's like 675, I think, if all 3 pellets confirm. I mean, it really is a lot, especially when it's just being uncontested. You think, ignore the Inara, she's DRing, we'll focus another target, and then suddenly, the Inara just killed 3 of us.
Killed everyone.
What did she do? She has a super strong, CC ultimate. We don't have our resills yet. The Inara really can turn a fight with her damage. It's not just her sustain.
You know what I just remembered? You liked VP's lineup going into that last one, and they lost.
Did you need to remind me?
I did need to remind you.
Did they need to cut to my single when I was sighing and depressed?
Yes.
That's what I signed up for, right?
That's
That's
right.
what I signed up for.
You put yourself out there, but at the end of the day, you're not wrong. They had a good lineup, but Kanga, wow, they looked cleaner. As you said, they had a very sustained composition. It was easy to build Haven into it, mitigate so much of that damage. And again, you look forward to MSI. Both of these teams are going, so nothing changed there. Nobody got knocked out. But the last taste in your mouth is a good 4-3 victory capped off with a 4-0 win versus we play a grueling 7-game set and don't come out on top.
It's more than that, too.
Yeah.
It's because these records don't get wiped.
Right.
All these carry forward into Phase 2, into the qualifications to HRX.
Yeah, forget even MSI. I mean, don't forget MSI. It's going to be fun. Make sure to watch. But you're right. You look forward to HRX. What you put out in front of you here. I mean, that's who were we interviewing? It might have been Phoenix. I was asking people this week, how important are these seedings? Because so many of these games this week decided seedings, and it's like, it's good. We look forward to MSI. It is a mid-season tournament. We want to win that tournament, but at the end of the day, the World Championships. These games matter for Worlds. MSI is not, our end-all be-all. So you're right. I mean, you look at individual weeks, they start to build up over time. But I'm sure Kanga are going to be feeling very good. But don't let me speak for them. We have an interview to hear from them.
Well, gentlemen, it was like 2 or 3 hours ago, but game one on Frog Isle was not a great start for you guys. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what happened? I mean, ended that game, it felt like a lot of ults were still up and not able to kind of just get your feet under you.
Yeah, we didn't play it our best, but we also had a plan going in, and then right before the game, Strix ended up being banned, which kind of threw our plan out the window. So we had to kind of try to adapt our draft right on the fly there, and it just didn't pay off.
Yeah. Well, you certainly did at the end of the day. This is a team, one of two true international squads that were put together. You guys have really improved over the course of this phase. What are you most proud of accomplishing over these 13 weeks?
I'm happy that we got 5th place. I was happy to qualify for MSI, but now that we've beat VP twice and overtaken them to 5th place, it feels really good after the rough start that we had.
Yeah, just qualifying for MSI and just being there on the world stage, really.
Yeah, looking forward to MSI. I mean, how do you feel like you match up against some of the top teams? I mean, NIP looked like a little bit different today, but Navi's been looking a lot better. How do you think you'll fare against those top end?
I think we can beat any team, really. Any team can beat any team. Like, literally, not kidding. Like, on the day, like, anything can happen. Like, I just think it's all down to, like, how you perform on the day.
Speaking of on the day, we saw a lot of stuff today. Is this an indication that the meta's maybe going somewhere different going into MSI? Is this people just wanting to leave false breadcrumbs as to what they may be planning? What do you guys expect in terms of meta shifts going into the tournament?
I don't think a whole lot's going to change. I think people were having fun today because positions, for the most part, besides us, were pretty locked in. And I don't think people wanted to show exactly what they were going to do for MSI.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on the victory, guys. You absolutely earned it. That was a great set between you and VP. We're going to get it back to the desk and close out Phase 1.
All right, thank you.
Well, Kanga round out their first split with a big victory. Hades is back in Australia, so no steak dinners for those guys unless they want to.
Problems about that too.
Yeah, wow. Well, if you want a trip, go check out Hades' Twitter because I don't know what happened when he went over there, but he wasn't super thrilled about it. But what a fun first split it was. 14 games for all these teams locked in place, and here are your final standings. If you want to look at the MSI qualified teams, you're going to look 1 through 6 here. And with that win, Kanga, they jump over Virtus.Pro. So the final game goes to 7. Kanga leap over Virtus.Pro. And then, 1 through 4 fall for the rest there. That 2 through 4 block was very close with you guys, Envy.
It could have been a three-way tie.
It could have been. Well, we'll take a look at the bracket in a moment heading into MSI and see how everything looks because it's going to be interesting to watch how everything plays out because this is sort of a dynamic tournament. We've never done a true full cross-play LAN before, so we'll have a format video on Monday, so make sure you keep a lookout for that. But we'll have a play-in stage, which will be the first few games where you'll have top 4 minor league, top 4 console league. They'll all be battling it out. And then a couple teams from that qualify up into the championship bracket where you're competing for some big prize money. Are you excited? Who are some maybe standout teams? Of course, you have to say Space Station. And you guys truly are. You are a very standout team. I expect you guys to do very well.
Thank you.
Do you think that the MSI will continue to be as competitive as this split has been?
I think that the biggest standout, if we're talking just PPL, I mean, obviously, we say that any team can take them. We just saw VP, the team that is now 6th seed, almost take it to NIP.
Virtus.Pro's the 6th seed.
Yeah, we just saw the 6th seed almost flip it over.
You're right. I mean, you can never know who's going to win this. Of course, here is your play-in bracket. All of these will be best of 5s. Elevate Sour Team, Flashpoint Sanguine, Cyclone Hype Unit, Heating Up Penta. These are all going to be very, very fun to watch. Elevate, Flashpoint, and Cyclone, teams that did not lose. All 3 of those teams in the console league did not have a single loss on their record. So they're going to be coming to MSI, putting that to the test. And then, of course, semifinals and then finals, and then those 2 teams will qualify up into the higher bracket.
I'm excited to see how the console teams play with mouse and keyboard. I know
some of the guys are going to do it.
Yeah, well, I think they feel like they have to compete. I think the biggest story of it is going to be how I think the EUPML teams are going to come in absolutely swinging.
Well, you have a show tonight. We're done with this show for today. tell me what's your show tonight. Where can I find some information about it?
Yeah, I have a podcast that I do every week you can find more information on my Twitter. It's called Chain Reaction. I do it with me and G Bunny from Knights. We have rotating guests. Yeah. It's on twitch.tv/KresnikTV if you want to come through. Like I said, more info on my Twitter. We have rotating guests. We're going to see who we can get this week. We try to do it weekly.
Well, I'll be in the chat at least, so you guys will catch me there. It'll be a fun show, but that is going to be it for split number 1 of the PPL. All 6 teams from the PPL locked in, of course, for the MSI. We have Esports Weekly next week, a little MSI pre-show on Wednesday, so make sure to tune in for that. But as I said, that's going to do it for us here today, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Brought to you by Evil Mojo, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, SteelSeries, Alienware, and Skillshot.